What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another episode of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast. I am Tony Mango, joined as always by Robert E. Felice.
Hey, hey.
And Callum Wiggins.
But what about the adversity?
We have 3 world titles to go around, it seems, so each one of us can hold a belt.
Dibs
Good,
on
right?
The new one.
Yeah. Dibs on one of the other ones instead. That's what we're talking about today here. We're going to do an edition of Going Over, which is our general, just, hey, let's talk about one topic and kind of harp on that and focus on that. We usually tend to do these mostly on draft-based things and championships, and once in a while there's something like a particularly big topic about one person. Essentially, this is where we take one of the hot tags and we make it an entire episode because we've got a lot to talk about. And we know that if we would have just saved this for the hot tags, it would have ended up being, 2.5 hour episode of the hot tags. So we are going over this new WWE World Heavyweight Championship. We got a lot of things to talk about here, whether or not we like the design, what's going on with the name of the belt, the title lineage, what's going on with Roman, who's going to win the belt, how should they win it, how is WWE going to offset all of the bad stuff that's already happened when it comes to this and all of it that's going to be coming up in the near future, so on and so forth. So as we go along here, we want to know what you guys have to say. So whether it's about the look of it or it's about the booking, whatever it might be, drop your thoughts in the comments below. Tell us your thoughts over there on Twitter at SmarkOutMoment. Post something on Facebook, whatever it might be, the Mega Maniacs group on Facebook. Get your opinions out there because I want to know how everybody else is feeling about this. And generally speaking, if you had to just say, look, you got to go pro, con, thumbs up, thumbs down, before we start getting into the nitty gritty and nitpicking things and kind of swaying our opinions one way or another, thumbs up or thumbs down for the overall concept and the belt itself. How you guys feeling?
Thumbs up.
Big thumbs down.
Well, this is going to be an interesting one because I am thumbs in the middle. So this is going to be one of those ones where we switched it up a little bit. Instead of it being Rob in the middle of Callum and I'm going to be the monkey in the middle here. So, I guess what we're doing. What we should start off with is the look of the belt, because without getting into the booking stuff that's more complicated and all, the very first impression that we have is just when Triple H being he, unveiled it as like, look, here's a new championship. And the belt, the way that it looks is going to be something that obviously that plays a factor into it. It's not the end all be all when it comes to a championship, but I mean, look at the 24/7 title. Awful. Looked awful. Looked awful from the start, booked awful from the start. I'm kind of on the fence about this. I think it sort of looks a little bit like that Ferrero Rocher candy. You know what I'm talking about? They always advertise during the holiday season as if this is something that's like, ooh, you got me this fancy thing. And it's like, yeah, you can buy this at Kohl's. It's not anything special.
Hey.
They are good, though. I'll give them that. Hey, you want to sponsor us? You want to send some my way? It kind of looks like that to me. It's just like crumpled up gold foil. But I've also gone on record, and I am going to repeat this, and I know that people think that's blasphemous. I'm not the biggest fan of the big gold belt. I think that it looks better than a lot of other most championships, I should say. But when people talk about like, oh, there's never been a better looking championship than that, I think it's a little bland. I think that it's a little boring in some ways. I know that, the lineage with Flair and all. I don't have as much reverence for that as some other people. I'm not an NWA guy. I'm not a WCW guy. To me, the Winged Eagle is the main thing. So I was already at least a little disappointed that it wasn't the Winged Eagle. But I do like this better than the big gold belt. And I know that that's going to get some people to be like, what the fuck? Looks wise, what are you thinking? Ignoring everything else that goes along with it.
It's
Let
horrible.
me tell you. Go ahead, go.
I again, I'm in the complete opposite camp to what you said. The big gold belt is one of the greatest belt designs in history. It's iconic. It's huge. It feels like a proper wrestling championship. It feels like the person wearing it is the biggest champion in the world because, yeah, and it may just be a size aspect of it, but it is just imperious in the way that it's designed. You just stick the stupid fucking WWE logo and side plates on it. It looks like a cheap toy, which is what every single WWE title looks like. It looks like a cheap toy. And I think adding that to it is, and also the belt looks smaller than the original big gold belt as well. It looks like it's been condensed down in order to try and make sure the circle fits into the center of it. I think like it's one of the cases where Triple H said, I mean, I hope this will be the case that Triple H said, hey, I want to bring back the big gold belt. And someone just went, we got to brand it because branding's super important. Put the logo right in the center. It's like, I would be greatly surprised if he looks at that and thinks, yeah, this looks great. So, no, it doesn't look like the title. It looks like a really bastardized, cheap imitation version of the title. And I think, that makes it look pretty ugly. I'm not a big fan of it. Is it an improvement on the just big logo titles? Potentially, but I think it's the fact that it is taking what I think is an iconic design of a belt and a belt which has meant so much for such a long time and really cheapening it with this blob in the center of it is actually more damning to me than coming up with an albeit really bland looking title design, which they've done across all of their world championships so far. So, yeah, not a fan.
I believe that Triple H is a fan, and I believe that Triple H said, damn it, let's bring back the big gold. And as Callum rightly pointed out, someone looked at him and said, yes, but we have to have a big logo in the middle because damn it to hell, John Cena, that's his lasting impact on the industry. That freaking spinner belt made them go, oh, we really like having our big logo as the main thing people see when they see our belt. This screams the definition of a forced compromise, but it's not a red WWE title, which is what they very well could have done. They at least bothered to go with a new design because, let me be clear, I said thumbs up because I had a lot of time to sit and stew on this. And the reality is they could have just unveiled another Universal title, but hey, we brought back the red strap. And now it's the red strap and the blue strap, and that's all you get. And they didn't do that. And for that, I am at least thankful. And I think the more I look at it, the more I appreciate where they were trying to go. Is it my favorite belt design? No, but it's way better than the giant W with nothing around it.
See, again, I've gone on record saying this stuff before, so it shouldn't be a shock. I like the current WWE Championship. It's one of my favorites. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I hate that it's just a big W. I like more angular designs. I mean, you could even look at the Smark Moment logo. Like I based it off of that. I like angular championships like that. If it gets too crazy, obviously I don't want spikes and stuff coming out of it. But I don't typically like a lot of rounded designs and a lot of things. Even when it comes to just regular things you could see on Fanboys and on Smark Moment, I very typically don't use like super rounded and circular fonts and stuff. So the big gold belt is a very curved championship, and I've never really liked a lot of those. And I like overall the design of this one, like the just like the main plate and the side plates. I'm really glad, first off, let me say, that they have the changeable side plates, because we're still missing that on the tag team titles. I don't know why they haven't done that yet, but
give it a week.
I mean, maybe so. When it comes to like the whole rounded aspect of it, I do think that I probably would still like it better if it was just, another angular thing. But if they're going to go with something like this, I think that this was a good compromise with that. But my main issue when it comes to the design, and yeah, I mean, I don't like the big gold belt. So the things I like about it probably are what people dislike. I like that there's the WWE logo in the center, but I don't think you can really see it that well. every picture that I've seen, and this includes just when they were unveiling it on the TV show, the shine of the lettering and the logo, it's not legible. Where it says World Championship, and you can look at it on the actual thing on this podcast right now if you're watching on YouTube. If you're on the audio only version, then you can't, obviously, on Spotify and all. But look at the graphic up on the screen right now for YouTube, and for Rob and Callum, obviously, you guys can look at the pictures too. You can't read that says World Champion. So that's a big problem. Now, the version that's up on the website right now for the shop page, it pops more. So I'm hoping that it was just a bad angle for the camera lighting, but that might be the bad camera lighting angle that we get going forward. So they might have to change that. And it reminds me of the design that we have before, the one that we were having for the past 10 plus years, the one that The Rock unveiled, that scratch logo version of the WWE title. I was like, I kind of like it, but it's not quite there yet. And then eventually they switched to the one they have now, and I like that one better. So I'm like, man, I kind of want you to just tweak this at least a little bit so I could read that it says WWE World Champion instead of somewhat of a big W and then maybe some lettering around it. That's one of my biggest flaws when it comes to the design. But I'm really glad what Rob mentioned, that they didn't just go with a red strap. They didn't go with like a gold strap or anything. The black to me looks so much better. It's got a regal quality to it. Kind of looks a little bit like, I don't know if I want to say this and throw people off, but like a class ring or something, or like a Super Bowl ring. It gives me a little bit of that feel. So it's not my favorite.
Embroidering on the strap now that I'm looking at the actual shop belt and zooming in on it. There's some embroidering on the strap. You can tell Hunter is just like, yeah, I liked being the world champion. That's why I never went to the other show. I want that one.
And I like how they've got, if you can, I mean, the shop page is definitely the version of this so you can see better details. It's got 2 lions on the side built into that. So it's like, well, I mean, I don't like floral stuff like this. I get into discussions with my wife constantly where she'll point out like, oh, look at the architecture on this building. And I'm like, I hate it. Give me like the cold glass that like, banks use and stuff now. That's my jam.
You're oddly corporate in your design tastes, which is funny because you're not corporate in any other way.
I absolutely hate the vast majority of corporate America, corporations in general, and then I end up being like, but you know what? These minimalist designs and these, the blacks and grays and glass and marble and all. But I do like that this, for instance, above the world, there is a little eagle. Underneath champion, there's another lion. So it's kind of like, all right, you got some.
Oh, hey, look at that. I like it. I like that they're in the eagle. I didn't see that before. Thank you.
Yeah, it's not just that wispy kind of floral pattern. They've actually got those things built into it. So that's cool too. But it's not my favorite design ever. It's not my least favorite. It's kind of like the Intercontinental Championship. When they unveiled this one that we currently have, I was like, well, it's not the one that I like the best, but this will do. And overall, I'm thumbs up enough on the design that as long as they make that WWE and the World Champion part pop, then all right, good enough.
So I'm going to say something just as an overall for these titles. I fucking hate custom side plates.
Really?
I think because like the design as it is right now with the WWE logo on the side plates, it looks good. If it's going to be like a giant fiend mask, not saying Bray Wyatt will ever win this thing, but if it's going to be that, like it changes the design to an extent. And that, that's not great. But normally more than anything, we don't see much of the side plates. I'm just saying it could stand to hurt the design overall. Largely, though, like the IC title with Gunther, I think depending on who wins this and how it's treated going forward will overall impact how I feel about just all of it.
Oh, that's a huge part of what we're going to be talking about here today. Obviously, before we get started, though, and all that, though, I want to remind everybody to show your support if you are thumbs up on us, even more so than the championship. Then hit the thumbs up button on YouTube. That like button helps out quite a bit. Make sure that you are subscribed to this channel as well. Ring that little notification bell. That way you know when we go live. I was actually thinking about potentially going live for this one, and then I thought, let's save that for the Fantasy League draft. We got the Patreon. We got the little join button over there on YouTube as well. Those things are exactly the same. It's just one's on YouTube, one's on Patreon. The Patreon one, you don't get access to video content. It's still audio only. But on YouTube, you do see the videos. So if we do things like the mock draft type stuff on there, that's better in my mind. For the dark casts and, the pick your poison tier and even just the $1 a month tier actually helps out quite a bit too. There's also a little thanks button there if you want to click on that. Thank you to anybody who does take part in any of these things. You have no idea how much that helps the morale of boosting me from those nights where I end up messaging Rob at 2 a.m. and being like, I want to just delete everything and whatever. I mentioned before, don't buy anything from Redbubble. Buy stuff from TeePublic if you want to get some merchandise. I might have to just even change this graphic and just get rid of Redbubble on top of that. But TeePublic,
yeah, shame on you, Redbubble. How dare you?
I think it's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. But they are some great ways to help us out, and even just the fact that you're listening to this is also another thing too. So hit the share button if you think anybody else might be interested in checking it out. Let's go back around to this. Let's talk about another design sort of aspect, but it's going to lead into the discussion of some other points. The name. So far, WWE has been keeping a lot of details where they're just not saying it. I don't know if it's intentional or if it is something that they just didn't realize are going to be questions that people need to know the answers to, and then they're just like, well, fucking wait. You know what I mean? Because it's a lot of how this stuff works, where if somebody were to be like, yo, can we just get some clarification on this? They probably would be like, oh, why do you even care? Or they would just be like, just give it a fucking month. Shut up. But they keep calling it the World Heavyweight Championship.
That is the name of the belt, yes.
It's not up on the website yet on the Superstars page or anything, but every single thing I've seen has been referring to it, and the fact that Corey Graves referred to it this way and Triple H referred to it that way. The World Heavyweight Championship.
Correct.
Now, I do see it listed on the shop page as the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And it might sound like that's, what are you talking about? This is the same thing.
You're splitting hairs. I know what you're getting at, but you're...
Remember, we had at one point, on one brand, there was the WWE Championship. On the other brand, there was the World Heavyweight Championship. Originally, that was the split of the two titles. Eventually, they got rid of them. They combined them. Randy Orton hold them to the titles at the same time, etc. And Daniel Bryan, same old thing. They got the Universal Championship, and when we've had the Universal title instead, and then prior to that, when it was just the single unified belt, that was called the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. What's going on with this? Is this a reinstatement of the World Heavyweight Championship that Mark Henry and Kane and Booker T, for instance, won? Is this the WWE Championship that Roman is currently holding, and they're just waiting to determine? Because Triple H said, whatever brand Roman is drafted on, he is going to stay there, and he is going to bring the undisputed WWE Universal Championship with him. Does that mean that he is going to be drafted to Smackdown, keep that blue branded Universal title, and they'll go with he's the Universal Champion? And then the WWE Championship just becomes this belt and we're getting rid of the other belt? Or do we now have 3 titles? And does this mean it's the World Heavyweight Championship lineage, or does this mean it's a brand new lineage?
Ultimately, let's start with what I think is the easiest answer. Because even though I think it was USA or either the USA Network or it was Bleacher Report. They both popped up on my phone at the same time. That referred to it as he brought back the World Heavyweight Championship. I think that they could go that route, but I do not see them reinstating that lineage in the same vein that when they brought back the WWE Cruiserweight Championship, the other one was still defunct. This was a new lineage.
I absolutely hate that type of shit. Because to me, you shouldn't be like, all right, the WWE Championship. Is it the WWE Championship or the WWE World Heavyweight Championship or the WWE World Heavyweight Championship or the WWE World Heavyweight Championship? Like, what the fuck? Why are you saying that 3 times, 4 times, whatever?
So what's going to happen is, and I know this, Roman is the Universal Champion. This person will be the World Champion. There is no more undisputed. It is now disputed because WWE, they took the Roman thing too far.
Let's put a pin in the undisputed part because that's another thing I wanted to bring up. But how are you feeling about where they might go with this, Callum? Do you think that this is the old, like the Mark Henry type championship? Do you think it's a brand new, we're going to start with the history like just out of nowhere? Or are we getting that this is the WWE Championship going forward? What do you think?
I mean, I know this is kind of just my gimmick on the channel, but realistically, it doesn't faze me one way or the other. I'm just being honest. I don't care if it's the old, if it ties up with the old World Heavyweight title lineage, or this comes up as a whole new thing. It doesn't bother me one way or the other. They just, if they say we're gonna do this, then they do that. They say they're gonna do it the other way, they do it that way, and both sides it will just be okay, whatever.
Okay, so
I'm worried that they're going to do something where they take the Universal title and they make that get rid of the old WWE title. That this is like, let's create another World Heavyweight Championship. It's brand new. It's not the old one. So now we have 2 World Heavyweight Championships and the WWE Championship that used to be the World Heavyweight Championship. And we've got 3 with the same thing, but now the Universal is the main one. And it's just going to go down in the history books as Roman was the last WWE champion. You know what I mean?
It'd be an interesting way to celebrate 60 years of the WWE Championship. I know most people don't care, including at least one person on this podcast, but they could be going that route of saying we're going to retire that lineage in the same way that they retired the Tag Team Championship lineage, and the actual the Raw Tag Team titles are now the oldest titles in existence, and that goes back to, I think it's Benoit and Angle.
I hate that shit so much.
They could do that. Largely, I don't think it will matter too much in the grand scheme of things. It'll just be kind of something that sticks in the craw of people like you and me, who it's like, oh, that sucks that the belt that Brett held is technically no longer in existence. You know?
If that ends up being the case, that might be them just looking at this as like, well, we want to end that lineage with our main guy. And now that we're switching over to this Endeavor thing, we want to start brand new in a lot of ways, you know?
And that's okay. But can we start getting into the fact that no matter if I'm thumbs up on this as a concept or as a design, it still would have made so much more sense for Roman to just fucking lose at WrestleMania.
It should have just been Cody. Yeah, like that's another. I don't want to open up that can of worms quite yet because cards on the table. Here are a couple topics that we're going to get into at some point. There's still a couple more with the title lineage thing I want to talk about, but one of them being, is Roman going to carry 2 straps? How are you going to keep the interest on Roman when we know that he's not going to fucking lose this anytime soon? How do you crown a new champion? Is this not the B+ championship, etc.? Money in the Bank is another thing too. But as far as the title lineage stuff goes, you mentioned the Cruiserweight title. They do reset this stuff every once in a while, and I'm worried about that. But the part of me that is hopeful is thinking they just jumped the gun a little bit here to explain something better for the draft, and that the the real game plan is essentially on SmackDown, we're going to announce Roman Reigns has been drafted to SmackDown. He is the first round draft pick. Obviously, that's going to be the case. The only thing that could make any sense whatsoever is if they end up saying that he's drafted to Raw and then whatever, but I don't think that's going to be the case. So we're going to keep him with that blue championship. We're going to keep that going forward. He is the Universal Champion. And we don't want to say that yet, but essentially the Raw Championship is going to be this one. And we don't want to say whichever brand Roman Reigns is going to be drafted is going to keep that championship in a different way, because then we're going to spoil that he's staying on SmackDown. You know what I mean? Like if they were to say, if Roman gets drafted to SmackDown, he keeps the Universal title. And if Roman gets drafted to Raw, he keeps the WWE title. Then everybody would immediately go, oh, so he's going to stay on SmackDown because the Universal is the one that he's 1,000 days at. So I'm kind of hoping that that's what they're going for. And then effectively, they're just going to say, look, that other belt that Roman's been holding is now this one. And they're going to keep the WWE Championship lineage. I'm hoping that's the case. But there's an alternative that they can do here. I don't think that it's all that complicated, though. I think that the easy way that they can do it is they can just have, okay, Roman's drafted to SmackDown, and then going forward, we just see him only holding the blue belt. And then when they carry on and we get a new champion crowned at Night of Champions, on the website, they just replace the picture of the WWE Championship that's on there right now, like the black championship with the red swoosh and everything. If they just replace that with this one, then everybody goes, oh, it's the same belt. Okay. You know what I mean? I think that's the easiest and most effective way of doing it. So I'm hoping that's the case.
The black strap.
It might be. But there's an alternative here that could happen, and I think it's absolutely fucking ridiculous if it does. Roman could continue to carry 2 straps with him. And they could end up calling that still the undisputed WWE Universal Championship, which, if they do that, I don't know how they're going to continue the lineage. I don't know how they're going to continue to bill that as undisputed when you've got another world champion, because doesn't that kind of make it seem like Roman should just challenge this person and beat him and carry 3 belts then? Can't be undisputed if you have a new champion then.
I think that these are all things that they've probably seriously asked themselves. You know, I think that they're, especially from a traditionalist standpoint, there probably is a desire to just have the black championship be the title that is kept moving forward, except for the fact that it just so happens the blue strap title is the one that Roman's held for nearly 1,000 days. Ultimately, I think that they'll just go, it's time to move forward, it's time to move on, we're going to retire the WWE one, because that one actually says World Heavyweight Championship on it. And we're just going to keep Roman Reigns as the WWE Universal Champion. He has been so for the last nearly 1,000 days. That title has some prestige, and now the other title is retired. I think the most important thing here is that Finn Balor is now the oldest champion on record. And I think that we need to respect Finn Balor and put some respect on his name for what he has accomplished.
Do you think that there's any chance they have Roman continue to carry both championship straps?
Oh, they very well could, just because it makes him look even more prestigious. It'd be stupid.
I mean, it's kind of up to him, I guess. If he still wants to carry around the 2 straps, then they'll probably just do it. If they want to replace it with one big title, then they could do that as well. Again, I don't really care about whether it's 2 belts or 1 belt. It doesn't. Again, that's not really aesthetically. It doesn't do anything for me one way or the other.
I'm worried that if they do that it's going to be more confusing and people are going to go, oh, so this is a new championship and the WWE title is still just kind of we're going to continue to, like, I mean, let's put it this way. I know that a lot of people would be like, why are you bringing this up? But the Heritage Cup, after all this time, I kept going, they still haven't switched it on the website. And it seemed like it was just like, okay, well, they just, for some reason, didn't do it. They didn't address it with Worlds Collide. They haven't shown it on TV. NXT UK is gone and all. But eventually they just brought it back, and it's like, okay, well, we're dropping the NXT UK part of it, making it just NXT. It's the Heritage Cup, and Noam Dar's still champion, and we've just continued to count it all these months.
Yeah, well, I told you when they did put it as defunct on the website, because they were actually on the ball with a lot of that UK stuff. So when they didn't switch it over, it was very clear what they wanted. I think the decision will be made. Cards on the table, we all think Roman is absolutely staying on SmackDown. I think the decision will be made once he's there, what they want to do with whatever belt.
I mean, I think that they're more than likely we're going to get a lot of these answers on Friday. And I think some of the answers I don't think we're going to get an answer to until we just see who the new champion is at Night of Champions. And then that's going to kind of clear the air as far as, is this the WWE title? Is it the World Heavyweight title? What's going on? Don't just blindly trust Wikipedia offhand for anybody that's wondering. The lineage stuff is confusing when it comes to that. But if we see Roman is drafted to SmackDown on Friday, and on Monday, Roman Reigns pops up on Raw anyway, or something stupid, then it's going to be like, well, what's the point? He's supposed to be staying on the brand. If we see him carry 2 belts, then it's going to be more confusing, et cetera, et cetera. But they got to stop calling it the Undisputed, at least. It's got to just be the Universal Champion or the WWE Champion, or, whatever it might be. Here's a question for you guys that I am wondering if you have any go-to answer for. How do you keep any interest at all in Roman Reigns defending this championship when Triple H flat out said, I mean, as transparent as he could be, Roman is not defending his championship all that much, and that will continue to be the case going forward. So let's have this other prize for people, because none of them are fucking beating Roman, and that's not changing anytime soon.
I mean, that's the crux of why I think this is such a lame and bad move. It's the case that, okay, essentially nobody can beat Roman, so we're introducing this new world championship, and Roman's never, no one can beat Roman. Roman's never around. Roman doesn't defend his title. We're not going to have a champion that's held hostage, so we're introducing this new title instead. We're basically saying, okay, we can't get any of the actual members of our roster to go and beat Roman Reigns in the opportunities he does put the title on the line. So instead of that, we have to resort to the very next best thing, which is create a whole new championship away from what Roman's doing, in order to basically make sure that other people in the roster have a chance to be
something
quote unquote world champion. Yeah, to be a world champion. And that's just the whole argument about this is a consolation prize.
Yep.
This is, you guys are all worse than Roman, but do you want your own belt?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a case of so what does Roman do? And all of this stuff where, like, from the moment Triple H announced it and said, oh, Roman's not defending his title, we need a champion that's here every single week defending and fighting for this title. We didn't seem too upset with him when he shook his hand after WrestleMania.
God damn
and you didn't seem to be too much in a rush to get the referee to restart the match after Cody got screwed out of the title in the main event, or in the match that Sami Zayn where he got screwed out of the title, or the match against Drew McIntyre where he got screwed out of the championship. So there's all of that aspects to it, and then for Seth to try and come out and save it by saying a title that's away from politics and part-timers. So, super insider, really good, cool stuff there. Really, really speaking to the heart of the internet wrestling community right there. It's it's all really, really lame, and a desperate attempt to just try and appease fans who are really bored of Roman's reign while it's have your cake and eat it too. Like, okay, we're going to appease the fans that are bored of Roman being champion and thought Cody and Sammy and whoever else should have won the title by now, and make them a world champion, so they should be happy with that. But then also we also get to have Roman be the champion for a really, really long time, and so preserve what we want out of this, which is for Roman to be the greatest champion that's ever lived, because we're just gonna will it into existence.
It's really weird. Go ahead.
I largely agree with everything Callum just said there. And I want to take it a step further. I don't like the fucking fact that for the last 9 years, the story surrounding the WWE Championship, or at least half of the main top of the card, has been, we got to get the belt away from the part-timer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like
Roman and Brock and all. It's been largely you keep setting yourself up to be somebody that holds the belt hostage. What the fuck is that?
And then, to piggyback off of what Callum said, the idea of Triple H saying, we need a champion that's going to fight for you. And then Rollins cuts the promo about how Roman thinks everybody wants to be him, but no, some of us still want to fight. And it's like, on the surface level, yes. Cool, you're correcting the problem, even if I don't like how you're doing it. And that's why ultimately it is a thumbs up for me. But also, motherfucker, really? Like, this is the one thing I told you that I didn't want to happen, because I knew when they said the draft is going to be game-changing, I said, damn it, they're just going to make him drafted to SmackDown and say, okay, give up the other belt now. And that's basically what they did. Like, you couldn't just have Cody finish the story, which, by the way, Cody might still go to SmackDown. You might still finish the story with Roman, but here's the fun part. Now it means less, because now it's a disputed championship, and it isn't the crowning victory of, cool, fuck yeah, you got it off of Roman.
Oh, believe me, we are really going to get into the it doesn't fucking matter anymore thing. But here's the question that I got for you guys.
Go ahead.
Why have Triple H come out and say, hey, fuck Roman, right, guys? Here's the new belt. When the easiest way to do this, and the thing that would make the most sense too, and to get people talking even more, is to have this happen during the draft, where Roman, they say, Triple H can come out on last night's episode of Raw and say, I want to clarify some stuff about the draft before we get into it. One of the things that's going to be changing in WWE is we are going to have a hard brand split. Whether or not they plan on doing that when it comes to the pay-per-view stuff, like, I still think that they should have combined pay-per-views. But if they were to say, like, look, you've been seeing a lot of people going around, bouncing around back and forth. What we are going to do is we are going to have 2 sets of tag team champions, and we're going to have 2 world champions. Roman is not going to be a traveling champion anymore. Sammy and Kevin are not going to be traveling tag team champions. The women's tag team championship, I don't know what they're planning on doing with that, but maybe they get rid of that because it's fucking pointless, and maybe really should. And maybe they just, whatever, deal with it. I don't know. But point being, they go like, look, we're going to have 2 tag team champions. We're going to have, 4, 2 sets of tag team titles, 2 world champions. Everything's going to be split like that. And we will address the championship and how we are going to crown the new champions and all, and how we're going to split this after the draft. And then everybody speculates going into Friday. They go, ooh, they're going to split it. How are they going to split it? Is Roman going to go to Raw and they're going to keep that title? Are they going to split it where he keeps the Universal? What's going to happen with the tag titles, et cetera, et cetera? And then when Roman gets drafted to SmackDown, they go, cool, so you're keeping that belt because that's the blue one, and we need to crown the other one. And then Kevin and Sammy, they get drafted to, I'm assuming, Raw. Let's just say that. And it's like, okay, so you are the Raw tag team champions, and there's probably something stupid that's going to go down on SmackDown with the tag team title match. And it wouldn't shock me at all if it's like a double pin or something. And then we get the Usos are the SmackDown tag team champions or something. And then at least you've got an explanation for why you're splitting the belt that isn't you pulling back the curtain and saying, we don't want to fucking take the belt off of Roman. Triple H, all he did in that promo was to say, look, guys, come on.
Because that's easier.
That's so shitty to me. That's like when Vince McMahon was just like, you're tired of having your intelligence insulted. We're fake.
Well, let me give a definitive reason why I think it happened on this show rather than like it was a fallout from the draft. And again, I didn't watch it, so you guys are going to have to tell me if I'm off base here. What happened on this episode of Raw outside of the championship announcement?
Everybody reacting to the championship announcement.
CM Punk was backstage earlier.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to get across. But did anything happen on the show that was particularly noteworthy?
There's one thing that happened, and it was what closed it out, which was Bad Bunny announced that he is going to have a San Juan street fight instead of hosting.
Okay. So I think that the definitive reason why they've done this here is because there was no significant talking point for this episode of Raw, and so they decided, okay, we've got to make this show somewhat noteworthy because it's the show before the draft, so let's make this announcement now in order to stir up some interest for the draft coming up. And also, yeah, it was either this or you push CM Punk out on TV whether he wants to or not, really.
Yeah, right.
Well, yeah, damn the lawsuits that would follow or anything like that, but
God, imagine if somebody with like a quick trigger finger would have just been like, okay, we're going to crown a new champion and Triple H is in the ring. And then you just hear at the beginning of that, people would go fucking ballistic.
But that's like, I think that's the functional answer for it. And a lot of decisions WWE make do have a logic behind it. It's just not a creatively driven logic. It's a logic that works for them as a corporate entity.
Yeah, and I'll go a step further and say that what you're suggesting, Tony, would have kind of been more difficult to do than to, as Callum stated earlier, have Triple H babyface himself. Say, yeah, we want a fighting champion, and just go, okay, now the belt situation is handled, because fact is, I don't think they want to do a hard brand split. I think they're gonna weasel their way out of the tag team thing by Friday, I'm sure. And then it'll just be, okay, cool. We figured that out because it was never meant to go this far. It's just that we got really hard about the idea of the bloodline holding, 6 championship belts. And that looked cool for a year, but we don't necessarily need that anymore.
Well, going back to the Roman title reign thing, I mean, he's very clearly, we thought that this was going to be the case anyway, but now that we're getting another championship and or splitting the belts, whatever it might be, they're going to have to clarify that down the line. We are getting a new champion. No matter what the lineage is, no matter what you call it, no matter how they split the belts, there will be effectively the same sort of thing that we had prior to Roman beating Brock. But with the added emphasis that Triple H flat out said, Roman's not dropping that fucking championship anytime soon. So that kills any interest, I think, of Roman fighting anybody going forward. Because unless it is somebody who's an absolute top of the line, oh my God, this is why you are waiting to do it, like The Rock, which I don't think is a good idea. We've already seen the Drew McIntyre thing. Nope, not good enough. The Sami Zayn thing. Nope, that's not good enough for us to prioritize that over Roman. The Cody Rhodes thing, which every single thing in the book said, that is the definitive end of this. And they said, fuck you, it's not good enough. their idea in mind is we want to keep this belt on Roman for fucking as long as we possibly can. Maybe they want him to beat Bruno's run. I don't know. It's gonna be a while.
3 years.
Yeah. So, but it's like, look, I mean, at this point, he just continues to not drop the title, and they've now given an in-universe explanation of he will not defend this belt often. So anytime that they bring that up in any criticism that'll ever show up in any future press conference or anything, even the promos that people will cut in character, they can effectively say, why are you complaining about Roman not defending his title? We said he's not going to. And the few times he is going to defend that title, there aren't many people left, if anybody, that was going to be seeming like a viable person that could beat him. But now we know, like, he's not dropping that belt in Saudi Arabia at Night of Champions. No fucking way. They already have this new champion that they're going to crown. That's the big thing. So he's...
Well, the other half of that is the celebration of Roman Reigns hitting 1,000.
Which is, okay, so he beats Cody at WrestleMania, and then we just say, stay home for the build all the way to Backlash, and then basically stay home for the next month, and then we'll celebrate that you are 1,000 days of champion, which, yeah, no wonder you are, because you just didn't do anything for 2 months, and he's not going to defend that belt at Money in the Bank. And then we get to SummerSlam. So are they effectively saying Roman is only going to defend his title at Mania, SummerSlam, maybe Survivor Series, maybe Crown Jewel, maybe Royal Rumble, and Mania? Like, we will get at most 5 title defenses in the course of the next year.
I think he might defend a Money in the Bank, given that it's a big show, because it's going to be in London.
I don't think so. I think they're selling it on the Money in the Bank and just being there.
Look, I think you can say what you want about, yeah, well, that's going to be the thing that they point to. Good. Like, at this point with the Roman thing, mentally, for me, just speaking for me, I'm good. I'm done. If this is what the fuck you want to do, fine. You killed me at Mania when you didn't give it to Cody. Like, I don't care anymore what happens to Roman. The only thing I cared about was, okay, what are you going to do with Raw? They gave me that answer. So effectively, again, that's why I'm like, there's so much I don't like about the setup to this, but I cannot expand the mental energy to worry about what the fuck they're going to do with Roman Reigns when they know that they took it too far and now don't know how to get themselves out.
Because to me, and I think that you'll probably agree with this, Callum, let's just say whoever ends up getting drafted, but, like, you know, fundamentally Roman stays on SmackDown, whatever, and he ends up having like Bobby Lashley on SmackDown, and they go, hey man, you know, it's been 3 months since the last title reign. We're getting around to somebody finally getting a chance to challenge Roman. Bobby Lashley is going to have a match against him at SummerSlam, just for the sake of, you know, whatever. Aren't you just going to go, yeah, but he's not going to fucking win, so why do I care? And then when Bobby loses, or Seth loses, or whoever, then they go, all right, well, the people on SmackDown are continue to do nothing for the next however many months, and they're supposed to not address it because you're not going to have people come out on Friday night and go, man, I really wish that there was a champion around here like there is on Monday Night Raw. Wish I would have been drafted to that brand. Why would you want to be on the brand that you absolutely have no chance of winning the championship, because you're only going to get, only somebody is going to get an opportunity like 3 times a year. And even then, I mean, the company's flat out said that that's not going to be the case anyway. So shouldn't we just not bother to watch SmackDown going forward up until whoever they build for the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania?
I mean, I would make the argument you shouldn't be watching, full stop.
Yeah.
That's just personally, that's just my perspective. But SmackDown has the benefit they have Gunther, and he is like he is his own end boss, Intercontinental Champion, who was having, again, I'm not watching from week to week, at least since WrestleMania, but as far as I can tell, he's still having great matches as Intercontinental Champion. He feels like a really tough foe to defeat for the title, so there is prestige in chasing him for the title. So it's again one of the great things about the Triple H regime, one of the few great things in my opinion, but one of them is that they have re-established the Intercontinental Championship as a very sought after and prestigious title due to the fact that Gunther is holding it. So realistically, him being there and him being available every single week means that there is still a top championship for people to chase and feud and have that kind of aspect to it, with Roman showing up whenever he feels like it to defend his title. And yeah, you are absolutely right that most people are probably going to take perspective of, oh yeah, Bobby Lashley's going to face Roman, he's going to lose, and Riddle or whoever's facing Roman, he's going to lose. That's the mindset I think they want to get into, because they'll realistically, this title reign can only go one or two ways. One, you manage to build someone up that is either as over as Cody, or at least has an air of dominance about them, similar to Roman, which is hard. Like, you can't. They had two opportunities this year to put someone with that kind of level of overness, but you don't get that opportunity very often. It needs to be like the right setting or the right location, the right venue, however you want to look at it. Getting all those things to align in the way they did with Sammy in Montreal and Cody at this year's WrestleMania, it doesn't come along every day. So they have to hope that they can build on up to that level, or you make it a complete shock, like a complete shock result, in the same way that when Bruno lost the title, and again, that's all the way back in the like 60s or 70s, but when Bruno lost the title, he lost to Ivan Koloff, who is, with the greatest respect to Ivan Koloff, it's kind of a footnote in wrestling history. Like, the biggest thing he ever did was win that match. And he lost it, weeks later to Pedro Morales. And then Pedro was champion for a long, long time. So that's what you could potentially do, is just have Roman get upset by somebody. That's that, and I guess that's the story that you have with him now, is that Roman has beaten legitimately everybody so much that they have had to introduce another world championship because they just can't wrestle these titles off of him. So the only way he would lose is by someone just managing to upset him. And that's the only story you can tell now. Unless, in my mind, it's either that or you build Gunther up to eventually be more dominant than he is.
Go ahead.
I think the Gunther match will, or could happen. I reserve the right, obviously, to change my mind when I see the draft. But I think there's a good chance that the way you salvage whatever you have left of everything that you built with Mania, Cody should follow Roman. And Cody should eventually still dethrone Roman. It doesn't mean as much. But Shinsuke is not going to beat him. You know, like, you still have at least Cody is that level of over that you can say, theoretically, I don't know if this is going to happen. Well, let's play around here. Well, Roman, you've been drafted to SmackDown. The Usos and Solo are on Raw. You're an island unto yourself. You have nobody. Now I can beat you on the SmackDown in Madison Square Garden. I still think that's where it's going to happen. I think this new belt is not for Cody, even though I know people are calling it the Cody Consolation Prize. It's not for Cody.
Let's start getting into that. Yeah, let's get into that, because they haven't said how they are going to crown the new champion. They said it will happen at Night of Champions, which already, side note, they're not doing fucking Night of Champions. Why are you calling it Night of Champions? Just call it Clash of Champions or call it Gold Rush or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Like,
it's a Night of Champions. It is a night that we will celebrate Roman Reigns hitting 1,000, and a night that we will crown a new World Heavyweight Champion. Don't think too hard about this stuff, Tony.
It's just like that stupid thing where it's like Extreme Rules, where every match has a gimmick to it. until we eventually
That's
say
only
at
one
least
match.
at least one match has to be an Extreme Rules match. And what is an Extreme Rules match? It's the same as any other no DQ match, but we're calling it that. So fuck you. You know, there's so many things in the WWE that when you boil it down, it ends up being because fuck you. Stop asking questions. And I hate that with a passion because I swear every single little stupid thing that I do, whether it's the fact that the like and share button is on the right hand side of your screen right now, to the fonts that I care about every little goddamn thing. So it drives me crazy when I see that people have like hundreds and thousands of you've got hundreds and thousands of employees, and you've got people that could do this stuff. You know, they've got dedicated people, and you got lots of money that you can put, and then you're like, I just don't fucking care. And you're like, God damn it, why do you have money and I don't? But they haven't said, of course, how this Night of Champions thing is going to work. And I'm starting to wonder if the reason why is because, of course, I don't think that they plan on announcing anything until after Backlash anyway, just because the focus right now is on Backlash. And look, we got some time and shut up and wait for it, essentially. You don't need to know. All you need to know right now is we're going to crown a champion, whatever. But they could do a tournament leading up to it. So you got people on Raw, for instance, that are, you know, mini tournament or whatever. You could do a series of contenders matches. You could do, which I would think would be the worst case scenario, which is they just go, and you know who seems like they probably would make sense? It's Seth Rollins against so-and-so, or, you know, whatever, where they just announce that these people are going to fight for it. They haven't yet said that, for instance, hey, if Cody beats Brock or Brock beats Cody, one of those two is going to be one of the people in there, and then Omos and Seth, one of those two. But they could very well, after the fact, just be like, since Seth and Cody beat those two are going to fight for the title at whatever. They could do a tournament on the Night of Champions show, and that could be their way of filling the card up a little bit, to be like, all right, this is a Night of Champions in the sense that we're ignoring the whole every title needs to be defended thing. That's why we don't have to have Sammy and Kevin, if they even still are champions at that time. And we don't need to have 3 women's matches on the card because that might be a little bit too much for the Saudi people that might not be into that or whatever. We don't have the King and Queen of the Ring tournament, but we're going to have this tournament instead. And now it's going to be these 8 people up against each other. And we're going to have those 4 first round matches, and then those 2 semifinal matches, and then, you know, so on and so forth. You guys think they're going to do that? Or do you think that they're going to do some sort of just like, it's this guy against that guy, or like a 4-way, or how do you think they're going to go about it?
They'll start a tournament of some sort after Backlash, and either the finals or the semifinals and the finals take place at Night of Champions.
I mean, that's the way they should do it, considering that's the way they've presented the title as like a fighting championship. So you should have to fight to get it. Admittedly, I still think that it's just going to be the rematch of Cody and Brock. That you have Brock beat Cody at Backlash, and then Cody beats Brock at in Saudi for the Night of Champions to win the title.
So a couple things there. First of all, I know I don't usually get into this aspect of it, and it's a small thing because the title has changed hands in Saudi a couple of times, but I kind of hate the fact that this lineage is getting started in Saudi, but that's a small thing.
I hate it too.
I guess in the grand scheme of things. The only way you could fuck up this championship, to the point where I would maniacally laugh and then probably break down and cry, is if they had Brock win it, because
oh my god, if they have Brock, if they have Brock win this fucking thing and then he disappears for a while and Roman disappears, that's going to be the biggest fuck up.
It would be hysterical.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they won't do that, but that's the story is for Brock is that this is the only title he can go for because he's barred from challenging Roman for his title.
He's right. I didn't even think about that aspect of it. You're right on that, but like genuinely, I think that they'll end up announcing after Backlash, hey, here's how we're going to fill 3 hours of Raw for the next 4 weeks, you know, or whatever. Like, we're going to do these tournament matches. And then Rollins and Cody, if he's still on the brand, or if not Cody, then maybe even Finn Balor. Maybe they'll just run that back. We'll fight for this new thing.
But realistically, like, and I know everyone kind of has an idea about the consolation prize for Cody. Rob's right. Cody shouldn't win this title because
he shouldn't. Absolutely shouldn't.
Yeah, because it's not the end goal. Because I'm pretty sure, and again, this is a different title belt. It's a different design. I'm pretty sure his father held this title, or held the previous version of this title.
Some kind of version of this.
That's also where I get into the lineage side of it, because if they end up saying this is a brand new championship, and even though they're going to never admit this, because look at it this way, McDonald's never fucking says on any promotion or anything, yeah, I mean, it's cheap, but it's fine. It's not gourmet food. They're never going to say they have shitty food. They're always going to say something like, we have a great quality for the price, and we are, a company for the people and all. I saw a goddamn ad yesterday that was for some like truck or something, and it was like the most over-the-top bullshit I've ever heard in my life. It was like, this isn't about a car. This is about the American spirit. And I'm like, fuck you. It's a Toyota or something, So I don't care anymore.
You're gonna go with Ford, but okay, yeah, Toyota, the American spirit.
I don't, whatever the hell it was. That's a whole discussion in and of itself. The fact that I didn't even pay attention enough to the ad, let alone am I buying your car, and now I'm crapping on it. So you got the worst case scenario of whatever it is. So Google the American Spirit truck or whatever the fuck it is, and don't buy it just because of that marketing. So WWE is never going to say something like, well, this championship isn't the same as the other one and it doesn't matter. But if they continue the WWE Championship lineage, then at least if somebody like a Cody were to win it, it would be like, yeah, okay, I won the WWE Championship. If it's just a brand new title, it doesn't mean jack shit until you actually build it up. Yeah, technically it does mean something. It is going to be a world championship, if it's brand new or not. Of course, if it's the WWE Championship, it means exactly what the WWE Championship is. But let's just assume it's a brand new one. The Universal title didn't mean anything beyond this is the new World Heavyweight Championship alternative to the big gold belt. And the first champion we got out of that was Finn Balor, and he immediately had to vacate it. So they needed to rehab it from the start. And they're stuck in a situation here where they flat out admitted Roman Reigns is your main thing here, and he's not going to fight anybody really at any point, and he's not dropping that belt, and you can all shut the fuck up for the next year because he's at least going to hold it until Mania 40, unless he ends up being like, hey, I got injured and I'm out for the next 2 years because of some kind of serious issue or something. God forbid that stuff happens. But so they are going into this with, this is the consolation prize. They will never admit it, but it is the second place championship. How do you have somebody win this and not get criticism? Well, even ignoring the person itself, we'll get into who should be in the running to win. But if Cody wins it, everybody immediately goes, oh, so you couldn't beat Roman Reigns, but you could win the backup thing? Well, it doesn't fucking matter. You lost at Mania. That's where it mattered. And you didn't beat the champion, so you won the backup prize. If Seth Rollins wins it, people go, or Bobby Lashley or Drew McIntyre, or anybody who's held the title once or twice before, guaranteed people go, well, that's a missed opportunity. You could have crowned a whole new champion. This could have been a big, super great thing for, I'll just put a name out there, like an LA Knight. It would have been like, you could have... Like, you could have just made something with this guy. But then if you give it to somebody like that who's never won the title before, then everybody's going to go, oh, you gave it to a mid-carder? So this is the glorified Intercontinental Championship.
And that's why I say, I'll be Vince in this case. Fuck them. Do not worry about, oh, well, you gave it to this guy when you could have made somebody. No. We need to establish this lineage. We need to establish this championship as something worth a damn. And we're going to do that by giving it to, I'm just going to say who I think is going to win it, Seth Rollins. And then Seth Rollins can go and have a pretty good run with it. Of course, it's going to feel like the consolation prize until it starts to not. i.e., Triple H was 4th on the card with the World Heavyweight title until he wasn't, because that belt started to mean more than when JBL held the WWE title. It's all going to depend on perspective, but you have to start out strong. You can't start out with, oh, but we're going to make, I don't know, Chad Gable. Like, you know what I mean?
I think they're damned if they do and damned if they don't. Because I don't think they have enough time to build up whoever is going to be the next champion as being equal in any way close to Roman. So it's always just going to look lesser than Roman.
Well, can we stop fucking focusing on Roman Reigns?
I don't think you can, because I think that this is the whole thing came about just because they can't take the belt off Roman, and Triple H's promo didn't even avoid it. It made it the biggest talking point of the whole thing was this is the I can't beat Roman Reigns championship.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, like, can we stop focusing this on Roman Reigns? It's about a new challenge. It's like, well, the only reason this title exists is because of Roman Reigns.
I mean, I agree with that. I just don't want to keep bringing the conversation back to.
But it is all about that. It's because, as I say, I don't agree with Tony thing about, like, you're going to get criticised for, like, if it's someone who's held the title before, or if it's someone new, because frankly, you're going to get that, like, you're going to piss someone off whoever you make a champion anyway. So that sort of criticism you just avoid. But the overarching criticism of, oh yeah, this guy, whoever wins the title, is always going to be secondary. This is the most secondary of the secondary titles they've ever created for the World Championship. Because yeah, over time, when they, like, first back in like 2002, 2003, where they introduced the World Heavyweight Championship and had the WWE title on guys like Lesnar and Angle and stuff like that, there was an element of parallel to them. You felt that, okay, these are the top titles on their brands, and yeah, every now and again there's going to be someone who's slightly lower down in the WWE title position or world title position, and so one title is going to feel slightly less important than the other one, but there's still an element of parity between them. But then they stopped caring about SmackDown, and so whoever the champion was on SmackDown just became the default, like, secondary one. And at that point it was like the World Heavyweight title. It's like, okay, yeah, that's the one that you give to, like,
the
Edge
test guy
times. Yeah, you give to Edge 20 times, or you give to the Undertaker, because Undertaker only works on SmackDown, and Batista's there but Cena's on Raw, and Cena's on Raw, and Orton's on Raw, and Triple H is on Raw, and they're the ones
I think when Batista had it, when Taker had it, like, it always depended on who held it, because I think that there was still that level of equalness.
Not really. I think post 2005, 2006, everyone was quite clearly, yeah, SmackDown's the second show. SmackDown's the B show.
Yeah.
It has the Undertaker on it, but it's the B show. And it's like,
right. It was close in a way that you could have, like, the Survivor Series type thing. They didn't do it back then, but you could have both champions against each other, and either one of them could have won.
Yeah.
And you could have been in a scenario where, like, Undertaker and Batista technically could have main evented that WrestleMania, but it just wasn't going to be the case. And it was always like, all right, well, you know, John Cena's holding it, so at most you're A-, and the Cena championship is A+. You know what I mean? Like, you might be both A tier, but there's still a pecking order.
And it's quite obvious, like, when you mention the guys that have held the World Championships compared to the WWE Championship, and I'm talking about WWE Championship in that period of time. Like, WWE Championship, like, the kind of lowest ranked guy that held the WWE Championship around that period of time was, I don't know, you'd probably say, like, obviously JBL was a bad one. You look at guys like Eddie, but Eddie was super popular at the time. I think he was worthy enough as a main eventer. But then you got, like, Jeff Hardy, maybe, a couple of other people like that. But World Heavyweight title was held, like, by Booker T, who, you know, big deal, but at that point his career was pretty mid-card throughout the most of his WWE run. Mark Henry, the Great Khali, those sort of people. Alberto Del Rio, Dolph Ziggler.
Once you hit 2011 or whatever, like, once you hit the Henry era, that was definitively like barely a step above the IC title.
Right.
Oh yeah, to be
it
fair,
was the new IC title, because the IC title, if you look at the people who won around that time, they didn't give a shit about that. So it was in the previous era where somebody like a Bret Hart wins the IC title and he's the second top thing on the card because the world champion is like a Macho Man or a Hogan or, Warrior, like one of those types, that became what the World Heavyweight Championship was. So then the Intercontinental became what the European Championship was. And then, it kind of all, the pecking order kind of went down like that.
Yeah. So definitively, because of the Roman problem, this title is always going to feel, at least in the initial thing, so it's what, like everything, it's like nobody liked the look of the Universal Championship. They quickly got over it. It's like eventually people just accept that this is the world title, especially because like that's what WWE does. They indoctrinate their fans into thinking that these things are important when they, in the grand scheme of things, they don't look at it as critically as they probably should.
Well, they're going to make everything seem big. Or they're not going to make everything, but everything is going to, if they don't fuck it up more, level off once Roman drops that belt. Because whatever they call it, I'm still really, really holding out hope that this is the WWE Championship and they're doing that, which that I think solves a lot of the problems. It sounds kind of crazy to be like, if it's just the lineage, it doesn't fucking matter. But like, it solves some of the problems at least. It doesn't still solve that it's the Consolation Prize and all that. But whoever beats Roman is not going to be definitively will not be booked as strong as Roman. It is not going to happen. They're not going to give that to somebody. And then let's say he loses
another
it
3 or 4 years.
Right. Yeah. It's not happening. So let's just say he loses it at WrestleMania 40 and he loses it against Person X. Person X will probably hold the belt for about 3/4 of a year or half a year. And then they'll be like, you know what? We got sick and tired of the whole super long title reign. Let's give it to somebody else and whatever. So that next person is going to look weaker eventually than what Roman Reigns was, which is going to then, by that point, will have had over a year's worth of whoever this world championship is. If they build this well enough, then that's going to start to look like, okay, well, then that's the champion that people really should care about instead of Person X. But you run into an issue when it comes to all this stuff with Roman, where if Roman is only appearing on a few shows here and there, and they're treating that as like the big special attraction, of course, you could always make the argument, why isn't he just like not the champion and all, whatever, but that's another thing. But that means anytime Roman is on any pay-per-view, he will definitely main event. And the only way that this championship and this champion is going to look anywhere close to the same level as Roman, I mean, it's not happening. The person's not going to look the same because they wouldn't have held the belt for 3 years. And it's not a unified belt. It's not undisputed and all that. But if you want to get them close to that, you need to, at least twice over the next year, have them main event over Roman. And they're not going to do it. Guaranteed, if SummerSlam has Roman on the card, Roman is main eventing it. This champion is going on first, or they're going semi-main, or they're going midway through the card. And then you're immediately saying, look, this is the Consolation Prize, yeah. And also, it's not as important. And anytime that we have Roman, we will immediately push this guy to the side. So the only way to beat that, then, is to have this champion challenge Roman Reigns and make it the undisputed championship and beat him. And then you're back to the fuck is the point?
But that's what you build to 3 years down the line. That's WrestleMania 42. We have Roman defeat this person for the world championship, become a free belt champion.
See, he's got two, one in each hand and one on his waist. Yeah.
And then you run another year with Roman holding all 3 titles and no one else beat him. Then you introduce another world championship, and then Roman has 3 belts. This other person has 1 belt. Then you wait for another 3-year cycle.
And then you tell people along the way, just be patient, let the story play out. We have an interesting next chapter. The story never ends. And we've got how did they phrase it with the Braun Strowman thing? We've got a unique way of doing this. And it'll all make sense in a couple months, just like Rhea Ripley losing the championship to Charlotte. And it's all just bullshit. And then...
Yeah, I'd say, again, I know I'm going to keep bringing it back to the Roman issue because I know Rob's going to hate that, but that's just what I'm going to do. the way that you try and establish this title as meaning something, and you are pushing it as like a workman's title and a title that will be regularly defended, is that you try and make this title super exciting, put a lot of dynamic feuds, put a lot of attention on it, focus on that. And the way that you'd want to hope for it to turn out is that everyone really gets on board with this new belt and likes the way it's been presented and likes the matches involved and the whole feud surrounding it. And that's what you want. You want that excitement about it. But then what does that make Roman's reign look like if Roman is showing up a few months at a time? Everyone's like, oh, yeah, I forgot how shit it was to just have a world champion on top for 3-4 years at a time. Why aren't we seeing some more dynamic stuff going on there? It's just like Roman turns up every 3 months, defeats whoever the challenger of the quarter is, and goes back home for a while, goes to film something. Just like, oh yeah, this is really shit. I really hate this. I really hate the fact that there's just one title that just isn't around at all. Where, especially because now on the flip side, I can watch the other channel where this title's been defended maybe like every other episode of Raw, or just like at least on every single pay-per-view, and there's a lot more excitement surrounding it. Just like it could really stand to like backfire on Roman, because there's people getting, well, as someone who's very much in that category, who's super bored of the whole Roman Reigns thing already.
Mm-hmm. Because it's the same story, every single fucking thing for 3 years.
Yeah. You add to like extenuate that even further by just like putting like, oh, this is what you could have. You know, if we'd have taken the belt off Roman against Cody or Sammy or Drew or whoever between now and then. But no, we're keeping it on him because we think that some of you might be impressed by this imaginary number that we're just going to throw out there every now and again. Like,
Which that's another thing too, that if everybody goes, WWE doesn't care about things like the title lineage history and whether or not the Wikipedia article is going to be the same, and WWE doesn't care about the wording of this and whatever, but they do care about the fact that it's 1,000 days. They do care about, so they do that. That's selective bullshit.
I think they're different things. Because I think that the lineage, at least from the way you're doing it, is kind of like, oh, this person won at this point in time, held it for this many days, and bloody. And that's kind of thing. But for them, it's all just about the buzzword. It's just 1,000 days. Oh, that's impressive. I don't care who. I don't know who held that title anywhere near around about that time. But it's just the number. The number 1,000 feels impressive, or the 1,500, or whoever, or X number of years, or whatever. That's the thing that they want to clue people into. They don't really care about the overarching numbers or who's got the most. Well, let's say talk about the big things. Just like who's got the most reigns, who's held it the longest. And like how many days have they been champion? And that's kind of it, really. No one really cares about. I don't think people look into it with as much detail in terms of the overall lineage and the number of overall number of reigns anywhere beyond who's held it the most number of times. I
mean, for a company that's so big on semantics and things like, you got to say it's a medical facility instead of a hospital. You have to say that it's a championship or a title rather than a belt. You have to, in any situation, you have to say, for the first time ever, you have to say things like, that the show in Puerto Rico is happening, which means, since the last time it was this, and premium live event instead of a pay-per-view. They argue about that kind of stuff all the time. And then when you get into like, okay, well, is this the World Heavyweight Championship or the WWE? They go, I don't care about words. Then you're like, yeah, you fucking do. You really, really do. You just don't care about things that have logic behind it. You care about whatever the buzz phrase is that you want to harp on in the way that, maybe I'm killing my chances to ever get a job here, but are you kind of saying that you're a fucking idiot? Because then that sort of means that what you think is the thing that matters the most is whatever spin would work on you. The way that the marketing executives and plenty of other companies and stuff would be like, well, yeah, again, we're not going to call McDonald's shitty food. We're going to say that it's not cheap food, that it's cost-effective food, and then give me all your fucking money. And so many people that fall for that shit are just idiots. And be fucking honest. Like, look,
well, that's the demographic that WWE caters for.
Yeah, but then
it's the demographic that most companies cater for.
And then by saying that, though, what if they were to say like, well, we don't care about that. We think that this sounds better and that this is more interesting. Then it's like, oh, so you're one of the idiots then, because then you're saying that works on you. So you are admitting you're dumb enough to fall for it, and you expect everybody else to as well. And then that's a problem on top of it, because then maybe that's why we don't have logic in these things. So I hate that with a passion. I don't want to be in a situation where, again, if I'm Fox and Roman's on SmackDown, and to bring it back to the point you were saying before, people start watching this and they go, oh, so we can have a world championship on SmackDown and on Raw, but the Raw one's the only one that actually gets defended, and I have to wait 4 months before I see the champion on SmackDown. Number one, if I'm a WWE superstar, I don't want to be on SmackDown. I want to be on Raw because I've got 3 hours, so there's more of a chance I appear on the show. And it is the flagship show. And it is also the show where I could potentially win that championship. If I'm on SmackDown, I'm not going to do that. And I'm also up against another champion in Gunther, assuming he stays there, that is probably not going to lose that championship anytime soon. So I'm completely stagnant. If I'm Shinsuke Nakamura, I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm not winning any kind of championship anytime soon. There's no point in me being on SmackDown. And if you're watching it from a fan's perspective, you go, oh, so nothing's ever going to happen on SmackDown then. We're not going to build up to anything until we get to a week before Survivor Series. And we're not going to ever have any kind of real solid stories because we can't build to a champion. If I'm Fox, I'm going, hey, motherfucker, why do you have a championship on USA that people are tuning in to watch, and you can't have a champion on my show? Can't you just create a championship to go on my show? And then I'm going to start pressuring WWE to be like, can you get Roman to fucking show up here? Because we don't have a champion, and now we look bad in comparison. Because I don't want to have the same situation if I'm Fox and I'm running SmackDown that we've had on Raw for this while, which was Roman's got both belts. He's on SmackDown. And I guess the United States title's the top one on Raw, right, guys? That sucked.
Well, Roman's at least been on TV for SmackDown, so it was better.
Oh, can we start talking about Roman? Sorry, I'm just joking.
Fair enough. Where it was like, you at least had Roman on the show. Raw didn't have anything. But that's why I also think, to Callum's point, I hope this does backfire on the Roman run. And I hope they go, oh, this really sucks. Let's stop this. He hit the 1,000 days. We passed the marker. Now we can stop it. And they just switch it to whoever the fuck is going to beat Roman. Because realistically, WWE should want 2 champions that are strong so they can start building up their live event business again and have an actually cohesive creative plan. Thank you. Cohesive creative plan that, we can book to things that'll actually happen on TV.
And if they, for any reason, do have split brand pay-per-views, then whichever brand doesn't have Roman is going to be the one that always has a championship on it. Whichever one does have Roman is going to be like, God damn, why am I watching the SmackDown pay-per-view? The top match on the whole thing is that, this random feud is happening. That's not good. That's not good enough. So that's going to look bad.
I will say that I kind of get your perspectives on that side of things, but if you actually dig into numbers, stats, ratings, everything is up for WWE right now beyond where it was last year or the year before. Their TV ratings are higher for Raw and SmackDown were higher than they were at this time last year. Their live event business is booming. Everything is going their way. And that's the biggest crux of this, is that WWE can just keep doing the stuff that we're doing, which we can obviously talk about and critique, and rightly so. But at the end of the day, WWE just keeps pulling out winners at this point in time. So yeah, they think they can get another title in there, and they'll say like, "Oh yeah, SmackDown's not going to have either a world champion on very regularly, or you're going to have to settle for the Intercontinental champion, and he's not dropping the belt anytime soon. But you're still going to tune in because that's what you do." And and they're proven every single week that is just completely right. That there is this 2+ million people that will tune in on Fox every single Friday night and just sit and be given what they're given and enjoy it.
Those are the same people that are like, yeah, McDonald's is pretty good, and they shove that Big Mac.
But all they need is that 2 million plus people that are like that, and that's all they can, and that's all they need to sustain themselves.
To answer your
question, TV landscape.
To answer your question, you were going to ask, Rob, what do I have against McDonald's? You were going to ask.
Yes,
Wendy's is better.
Yeah. But I think that could it, if it's really like long term, like over the course of time, could this have a negative effect? Absolutely, it could have that. People do start thinking that SmackDown in particular, if there aren't that regularity of title changes or any real air of spontaneity, then that can easily start to just like take off. They feel like you're watching the same show every single week. But yeah, it seems like people are kind of accustomed to it right now, and more accustomed to it. Like people are tuning in more. It feels like. So I don't know what they can really do to misstep at this point beyond. Yeah, I'd say if they do have this new title and it ends up being super exciting and super great for Raw, and I don't think Fox will realistically care because Fox will feel that they've got the best deal because they've got Roman. Even if Roman is only appearing every 3 or 4 shows, they'll still think, yeah, but we've got the top draw in the company. So like people will always tune in with even like the thought of Roman showing up. And when they do announce that Roman showing up, then things are going to go sky high for us. And also, I also think that Fox don't care because Fox is going to Fox won't
drop it anyway.
Won't be in charge of WWE. Well, won't be running SmackDown in a year plus time anyway. So
to go back to the marketing thing I keep talking about here, because this is a marketing thing. I mean, at the end of the day, the whole championship belt thing is marketing. Yeah. Well, I mean, on top of that, to bring up the idea of like you were saying, hey, if you're a Fox executive, you're still kind of looking at it as like, well, we got Roman, even if he only pops up 3 or 4 times in a year. Doesn't that kind of give you a little bit of the impression of, do you ever see people that have like, they got a really shitty house and they've got no money in their bank account, but they've got an expensive car?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Like those people are fucking lame, and I think that's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely. It's all about perception is reality. That whole phrase. So it's like you've got this fancy car, but even though if your house is crumbling from the inside and you're getting divorced and all this other stuff, it's just like, oh, but the fancy car, everyone thinks that I'm really successful, and that's all that people will look at.
So here's a little side thing. This isn't really like a big discussion point, but it's something that popped in my mind when I was writing down some notes to this. That Money in the Bank winner is certainly cashing in on the World Heavyweight Championship, right?
Unless they go with Callum's idea and use it as a way to upset Roman.
Yeah, so this is the thing that I saw someone put it out on Twitter is like, what is the best case scenario? What do you do after everything that's happened? And I kind of like their scenario. And again, this if you could go back in time before WrestleMania, there's a different way to go about it. But considering you're in this situation now where Roman is the undefeatable top champion, essentially you just make sure Cody doesn't win this world title. You have Cody win Money in the Bank, and Cody say, I could use this to cash in for this world title opportunity, but I know there's one title I still want, and there's one loss that I need to avenge. And you basically say, yeah, I'm not gonna cash in, quote unquote, cash in the regular way. I'm going to call my shot at SummerSlam. Gonna fight Roman Reigns again, and I'm gonna beat him, and I'm gonna become WWE champion, or however they want to phrase it, because that is the belt that he wants. So I think that's the way that I would do it, because you need to, like, I say need to, they don't need to do anything, but in my perspective, you should finish that story. Cody's been through the adversity now. He's had his adversity. we're okay with that now. So he should win that title. What you should have done prior to WrestleMania, if you had any foresight before this, and I don't know how much planning they'd done going into this or anything to that respect, but what
seemingly
you should have
at least that they had this belt prior to Mania, because all those rumors that they could have potentially done Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre for this belt.
True, yeah. But what I would do prior to WrestleMania is you just would have had Cody challenge for the WWE title.
Mm-hmm.
And you just say, again, I'm not going to say I came up with this idea because I saw it on Twitter, but I like the idea as somebody saying, like, Cody should have gone to Roman and say, I'm challenging for the WWE Championship, and you get to keep your other belt as a reminder of what I could have taken from you. And that could set in a future match where Roman is almost he feels almost, not say embarrassed, but he feels like he has to constantly prove himself with that other title because he knows that it could have all disappeared from him. Maybe that can tell a story of why he creates a new championship, because he feels that title is like that title. It disgusts him to look at the blue Universal Championship, not only because it's blue, and that would disgust anyone, but more of the lines of like he can't look at that title because he shouldn't have it, and so he's had to bring his own new championship, and he's going to wear that instead. And so it's kind of a way of, because the whole Roman story is about him protecting himself and protecting his ego.
Yeah, it could have been like, what do you mean I only have this championship? This is the best championship. In fact, I'm creating my own championship, and it's this big gold belt. And then you have this championship design, and instead of saying world champion, it says universal. Yeah,
exactly. And it's just like Roman uses that to soothe himself, to remind himself that it was just one bad night, but he's still the guy. And you still have the 1,000 days, because that title is the one that Roman won initially.
Yeah. All you're doing is changing the look of the championship, and you're keeping the same exact lineage. You're keeping the WWE Championship is the one that Cody would have won. You have WrestleMania end in a happy way. and then you have your cake and eat it too, but no one gets upset with you about it. Yeah, because he's beaten Roman. But you could still do the thing down the line at Survivor Series if you wanted to, where it's like, okay, well, we're going to do champion versus champion. It's a WrestleMania rematch, the way that they keep it's a WrestleMania main event rematch for this tag team thing. And then you could even give fucking Roman the win back if you wanted to be like, oh, look at that. And eventually we might end up having these two have a third match or something, But instead they do whatever this is. And then it ends up being, again, I still think that the easiest and simplest and best way is that they say this is the WWE Championship, and they just didn't phrase it that way,
Realistically, what should have happened? But he just beats Roman. You start the next night with a big Triple H rah-rah promo about how they've been bought by Endeavor, and they're not going anywhere. And here's our new babyface champion that I can shake hands with and not seem weird. And then Cody goes, hey, this blue title's been held hostage for 1,000 days. Put this one on Smackdown. Let them crown a new champion, because this is the one I wanted. And we're good. You can even have him unveil the new belt, because it's kind of similar to the one his dad held.
And it can just be, hey, I'm contractually a Monday Night Raw superstar. The Universal Championship is technically a Smackdown championship. So since I am a fighting champion and I want to make sure that I do not do anything like what Roman Reigns did, I am going to be the bigger man here and say, for the betterment of the entire roster, aren't I such a fucking good guy? This is why I was a great EVP. I'm going to say, here's the other shit. And it's like, it's all fucking explanatory. And then, but then again, it seems like we're back to the thing again where, whether they said it or not, they might have said it if you read between the lines. The story's not over. We have an interesting next chapter to tell and whatever. They very well could just be looking at this as, why does anybody give a shit about the Cody thing? Cody was only built up to be a good challenger. The story isn't Cody winning the belt. We don't fucking care about Cody winning the belt any more than we care about the... CM Punk's not going to like this reference, but if we go to a Rocky franchise thing, the story of Rocky is that Rocky is fighting Apollo Creed. But if WWE's looking at it this way, they could be like, no, the story is Apollo Creed didn't beat Rocky, and that's why we have Rocky 2, where the story is whether or not Apollo. They're like, oh, this is an Apollo Creed story. And it's like, well, for everybody else, it's a Cody Rhodes story, not a Roman Reigns story. They could be like, look, the only reason that Cody was challenging for that belt is because he was a viable champion, or viable challenger to challenge the guy that we're telling the story about. Because the story is, isn't it interesting that Roman still fucking beat that guy? And all we care about is that Roman is continuing to carry this championship. So the only end of this story has nothing to do with Cody. We'll give him this fucking championship and, shut up. He already got the consolation prize, and that's all that matters. But the real story we're telling here is Roman holding it as long as humanly possible.
Problem is, we've told an entire story on this podcast about how just like this whole Roman thing has led everything down a very bad path where, all right, so cool, we're going to crown a new champion on Raw, and what the fuck do they do with Roman on Smackdown? That's why, even though you could very well be right about everything you said about Survivor Series and SummerSlam and up to next year's Mania, I think this probably boiled down to Triple H doesn't want to wait till after Saudi Arabia, till after they finally decide when to have Roman drop it, to have a champion on Raw, because it's hard to book a 3-hour show with no top prize. And I still think this might just lead to the Cody story, because until I see Cody drafted to Raw, it just makes so much more sense for him to go, no, new belt looks nice and everything. I don't want that one. I want the one I came here for. And that's that. Because while Finn Balor stared at the belt, and Rollins stared at the belt, and Omos, and Theory, and Lashley, Cody did not even look at it once.
Because Brock Lesnar's the only thing on his mind, apparently.
And I think there's something to that. And I think until I see otherwise on the draft on Friday or Monday, the story should be Cody and Roman go off and do their thing. I even like the idea of splitting the bloodline up through the draft. That way it's like, oh, we've taken your safety net from you. But I think the end goal should still be, even with this new title, which is great in concept, getting to a place where both Raw and SmackDown have top champions, because they've made it clear they only care about the 1,000. I think once that marker's hit, nothing else is going to matter. So they can get it off of him.
Before we get into probably the last main topic that we've got going on here, which is who should hold this belt, I want to remind everybody that if you think that my approach to storytelling when it comes to like you should plan shit out and it should have like a through line and things should matter and you should care and all that, if you think that that is something that you're on board with, whatever, you should definitely check out the Blueprint Project over on fanboysanonymous.com, because I will show you many examples of things like, hey, I think that the Batman story, otherwise known as for my blueprint, the Batman A Nighttime Story, 100 Records from the Wayne Foundation Archives, is a story about Bruce Wayne. And that's why you get things like I'm explaining the full history of Bruce Wayne instead of just being like Batman fights Riddler, or you know what I mean? Like, cause then, it's deeper than that. And obviously when it comes to Star Wars, I think that that's the story of Anakin Skywalker. So it should be, it should have ended the way that it ended when it ended, instead of just going, never mind, let's just do a long story on top of that. So, if you like that stuff, check out the Batman A Nighttime Story. Check out the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers epic that I've got called Absolute Power Rangers. Blueprint Project, a little teaser on that front and all that. You can find that all on fanboysanonymous.com. Show your support for all this stuff. Hit the like button, share it around. Sharing it is the best thing you could do, because the more eyes we get on this, the better chances that people that can help me do something with it can actually do that. The executives over at Hasbro or whatever, tweet at James Gunn for the Batman stuff, tweet at Power Rangers for that. Keep all that stuff in mind, because that stuff, if you think I can put a lot of effort into the WWE side of things, You have no idea how much effort I'm putting into some of the other ones that are out there. So let's start getting into the who for this whole thing. Whatever we think about how they're going to plan this out, whether it's the championship, that's the WWE Championship, it's a brand new title, it's just a means to avoid Roman, it's whatever, they're going to build a Mania 40, blah, blah, blah. First question, right now, before we get into the draft, because we're going to address this stuff with the draft as well, who would you think right now is going to beat Roman for whatever belt he's got?
Cody Rhodes, as I've laid out several times on this podcast, I think he's the only one left that makes sense.
And you're thinking he's winning it at the Smackdown that's in Madison Square Garden.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Callum?
I don't know if the person that is going to win that title is signed yet, or at least prominent yet. I think they might try and build someone from the ground up to take it.
Who would you have in mind? Like,
definitely not Braun. Definitely not Braun.
Okay,
yeah, but I don't think that person has been signed yet, or exists. If you have to go just based on people in the roster, if it was up to me, it would be Gunther.
I'd be down for it.
There's a part of me that's thinking that they might be thinking eventually this is all going to come back around and Roman Reigns is going to be still champion long enough that we're going to turn him babyface and we're going to have a big bad heel like a Gunther beat him. But right now, if I were to guess, and the draft can change all this shit around for all we know in crazy amounts of ways, I honestly think The Rock is beating him at WrestleMania 40. It's not at all what I would do, but I think that they still want to do that match, and they still just want to have The Rock just beat him.
At that point, just call it the WWE Legends title, and
yep,
it can be the fucking part-time title.
Mm-hmm. But I kind of think that that's where they want to go, and I can't say that I'm positive for it.
I have interest in that match as a match. I have zero interest in that match as a championship match. And I said that last year, and I'll have even less interest in it next year as a title match.
But for this new / maybe not new / whatever, I don't know, this World Heavyweight Championship that was unveiled last night, we don't know which brand it's going to be on. We're assuming Raw. We don't know who's going to be on Raw after the draft. But you got NXT, you got WWE Raw, you got WWE Smackdown. It's clearly a men's championship, so we can rule out all the women. I don't think that we're going to end up getting, Becky Lynch is going to win this or something. I mean, it'd be really crazy if they end up being like it's an intergender title or something, but they've not at all said anything like that.
She is the man. I mean,
it's true. So, let's talk about some standout people. I think I'm not going to be crazy here, and I don't think you're going to disagree with me on this. I think that there's a good amount of people that we can immediately throw out that stand no chance whatsoever. Like, they're clearly not going to give this belt to Baron Corbin. They're not going to give it to Dolph Ziggler. They're not going to give it to Dexter Lumis or Montez Ford or Rick Boogs, like any of those types. But is there anybody in the mid card on Raw and SmackDown you think could potentially win this? Like, you give a big boost to an LA Knight, or you give a big boost to even like, I guess like a Matt Riddle, you could kind of constitute, because he's never won a world championship before. Any like new world champion types, mid-carders that can elevate to the main event?
Maybe by being in the tournament. I can't see them making it to the final match if there is a tournament. Like, I can see them giving Woods a push, let him have a couple good matches in the tournament. I can't see him making it to the main event. I don't know if I can see anybody breaking through and making it to the main event, except for maybe if they do split the bloodline, maybe Solo.
That'd be so. If Solo's the champion and Roman's the champion, and they end up just being like, "See, the bloodline."
That's a story you could tell, though. We're going for, that's fine. We're gonna go for expansion then.
Any of those mid-carders stand out to you, Callum? You think like a Shinsuke's got a chance, or Karrion Kross? Or...
No, none of them. I don't think would be a good choice to be the first champion.
Yeah, for anybody that's out there going, I'm really banking on Ricochet. Sorry, guys, I don't think it's happening. I will say that there's somebody that has never won a world championship that's on the Raw and SmackDown rosters right now that I think there might be something to, but this is all benefit of hindsight type shit. There's a chance Sami Zayn wins this.
Except for the fact that first show's in Saudi Arabia. Otherwise, I'd put Sami Zayn in the match for the fucking title. Absolutely.
I still think that there might still be a chance that could happen. It's not the biggest chance in the world. I'm not, if we're doing our gun to the head predictions, it's not Sami Zayn for me. But I'm saying like there could be an argument that maybe they keep doing this whole thing with the tag team titles and they keep teasing that they're going to lose them and all. And we're just getting this rematch and it's on the draft show and it's happening right before Backlash. And it's all this kind of crazy shit. They're giving me this vibe that they're taking those belts off of Sami and Kevin. And it might not just be because, hey, Night of Champions, it's the championship. All the titles are defended and we need to get them off of them because they're not showing up. They could very well be like, look, we're going to do that. We didn't give you the championship before, but we're going to give you this title instead. It wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world, but I don't think it's happening.
Yes, there is a 0% chance that happening because that match is in Saudi Arabia, so it will not be happening. You could if it was up to me, if that's
he doesn't. But Saudi. I mean, we go back to the previous things. The women didn't have a match. Eventually, they did. You know what I mean?
There's very different situation with Sami. It's a very different situation with Sami Zayn. I think that the women.
I'm going to reiterate. I don't think it's happening. But if there's one person who's not held the championship yet on the main roster, that could be. He's the guy that I could potentially see something happening there. There's more chance that they settle on something for him to show up at Saudi than for them to give this to Madcap Moss, for instance. I'm saying.
I'd say that's not the case, honestly, even to that degree.
I think at one point Sami Zayn could win this title.
Oh yeah, down the line he will, yeah, but
he just won't be the first.
I mean, if it was up to me, then the finals of this tournament would be Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn.
Absolutely,
those two go up against each other for it.
That is exactly the match I'd book as well.
But yeah, that scenario is not happening, at least for the first title win.
So we're already looking at this as there aren't any mid-card types that are going to be elevated to the next level. But we should bring it up just in case. I highly doubt we're going to think of it. But there's a chance that somebody gets called up from the main roster from NXT and that person ends up winning this. Because I don't think if you go back a year prior to the Universal Championship being created, I don't think a lot of people would be like, oh, that's very clearly going to be Finn Balor is going to win that first championship. But things happen like that. So there could be something here to maybe an NXT person ends up winning it.
There's a different presentation of a Braun Breaker than there was a Finn Balor in that NXT. That it was very much presented as an alternative to WWE's main roster and not the breeding ground, even though we all knew it was partially the breeding ground. There's a difference there. But I could see if they wanted to rush a Breaker, he could be the guy on the opposite end of the ring. I don't think he'll win the belt first.
I don't think that anybody from NXT stands a chance.
No.
Because Braun Breaker is a heel, and he would have been the only person, and it would have been a babyface thing.
Well, it doesn't matter if he's a heel, because no one in the main roster knows who he is.
No one watches NXT.
So yeah. And last time most of the people that watched him on TV was he won the NXT Championship on the episode of Raw after Mania, and that was it. So they'd thought, oh, he disappeared off that point and never heard from him again. Oh, he's back. He must be a babyface. But it doesn't actually matter in the grand scheme of things, because I just don't think anybody in NXT has the star power to carry that. And you could say that doesn't really matter because, as you say, nobody knows who these are. So you could if you just build them up to be like defeat all of your top names and then win the title, then you could just establish them right there and then. The issue with that is I don't think that most people in NXT have the charisma to pull off being a good world champion to start off with. Certainly don't think Braun has that capability. Carmelo potentially, but I think Carmelo's size will be the issue on that front. At least for just initially.
Anybody that's arguing, for instance, like you're getting ready to drop a comment and go, yeah, but remember Santino Marella was brought in as this complete like random guy, and he won the Intercontinental. He won the Intercontinental title during a time frame where the Intercontinental title was still not the number 2 belt. So yeah, they do things like that once in a while, but the likelihood that they're going to take this new championship that has this consolation prize type of atmosphere to it, as well as the pressure of you need to be able to hold down the fort for when we are missing the guy that we really care about. They're not going to put that on an NXT guy. Cameron Grimes isn't winning this championship and being your main focal point going forward. Sorry. I like Cameron Grimes and all, but it's a stretch to even assume that it's a guarantee people come up to the main roster, let alone that they'll get a push, let alone that they'll get a push to a championship match, let alone that they'll get a push to winning that championship match, let alone that being the world championship, let alone that being this world championship. So yeah, they could have, hey, if Braun Breaker would have been a babyface or something, like maybe he could have popped up and immediately challenged Gunther and beaten him for the Intercontinental title. Totally different story than, I don't know, Dragunov comes up and wins this championship and you go with him. Like it's not realistic. So we're pretty much looking at just a handful of former champions that are currently on Raw and SmackDown who could win this. So I'm going to go one by one here. Yay, nay, these kind of things. I'm going to go with SmackDown first, just for the sake of it. I don't know. Why not? I have it up on my screen. Nay on my prediction. We'll talk about whether we like it or not, but at least prediction-wise, nay for me when it comes to Big E because of his injury. Agreed?
I mean, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Nay on me for Braun Strowman.
Well, you said we're discounting mid-carders.
Yeah,
he's a former champion.
He's mid-carder.
Yes, but nobody remembers that anymore.
Dolph Ziggler's a former champion. He's mid-carder.
I'm saying anybody who's won the world championship before, we're going to go down that. Because if we're going,
he was champion during COVID, and I'm telling you, a lot of people.
It's a no, one way or the other.
He's not winning this one. He's the tag team guy with Ricochet right now. Like they're not going to give that to him. I would completely rule out, and I would be fucking crazy if they ended up doing this. I will just, I don't know, bash my head in or something. It can't be Bray Wyatt.
I, for one, would love a championship match between Bray Wyatt and Seth Rollins in Saudi Arabia.
I can't go wrong, yeah. And bring up some lighting for that even, make it special. It can't be Bray, right?
Well, no, it's not. He does. No one knows. Yeah, he doesn't even exist as far as this thing at the moment. So. Okay,
I just need a little reassurance from you guys that it can't be Bray. There's a very good chance, I think, that this guy goes somewhat in that range of like, it could be. Wouldn't be my pick, but it could be Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, he's leaving, so no.
You think he's leaving?
Sure, he's leaving.
Yeah. There's been no indication to suggest that he's re-signing at the moment. Until it's announced that he's re-signing, I'm going to assume that he's leaving. And he's one of those guys that people say like, oh, he's a WWE lifer. Well, no, he wasn't. He's already been out of the company for a long time in his career. So he's a guy that knows that he could. Yeah, he's probably said, oh yeah, I'm done with my period in WWE. I can go somewhere else now. I totally see them being in that mindset.
To be an all-in in Wembley, I could say that. But
well, no, I don't know if that's going to happen. But like, I could just see him in the mindset of like, oh, yeah, I'm kind of done with that stage of my career. I'm going to try something new.
Yeah, he'd be like, I won the belt twice. Yeah. I could always come back.
Maybe he still wants to win the belt in front of people.
Maybe, but I don't currently think that Drew is going to win this. It might change based off of the way that the draft falls and all. Yeah, I forgot. Honestly, that this guy's the former champion. Jinder Mahal.
Jinder Mahal's not going to win the world title.
No, not a fucking chance. But hey, look, he is a former champion, so got to bring him up.
He's
Same with Kofi.
Right now, shut up.
Yeah, that's technically
he's still listed as Smackdown.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things that they don't even care enough about. But technically, Kofi is a former world champion, but he's currently injured, and I just don't think that there's anything at all for Kofi to be the one that wins this. Love Kofi, love him.
He wouldn't be the first.
Super glad that he won that title and all. Don't mistake like me saying no to Big E as far as that, but it's like, look, he's injured. He's got no momentum on his side. Why would it be Kofi? All that stuff, it's not going to be Kofi. Rey Mysterio. I don't think so.
No, he'll probably be fighting Dominic and Saudi probably again.
Yeah. My expectation is Rey Mysterio is going to interfere in the San Juan Street fight and not even wrestle at Backlash, and that's where we're basically seeing him.
I just assume they're going to make it a tag match, but
yeah, they'll make it a tag. I think it's just an immediate announcement of a street fight, but it'll turn into a tag match.
See, I think because they already put the graphic up, I'm like, they're going to go with just.
They put the graphic up saying Miz and Bad Bunny 1-on-1 at WrestleMania. They still made it a tag match.
True. I think that the fact that it's a street fight, though, everybody's going to get involved anyway, so they don't need to make it a tag, Roman Reigns.
I mean, that would be fun. That would be funny, but no.
Look, I honestly, I got to put it out this way. If they did it, I'd fucking laugh my ass off. And I would think that it would be just brilliant. Just an epic troll thing to do. Just be like,
oh, no, the funny
you might as well just have Triple H and Vince McMahon. You cut to the camera of them in Gorilla and they just point at the camera and laugh. You know what I mean? Just fuck you, we got you.
And the funny thing they do is that they have the tournament final, and it's like the same thing they did with Roman when he won the title in the first place, which is just like it's a match between two other people. Roman just comes down and says, "Okay, I'm just gonna pin this one."
Yeah. One of the things that they could do, they're not going to, but if you want to, I'll save it for when we talk about this. All right. So, the only person left that is a former world champion that's on SmackDown is Sheamus. I don't think that he's winning this.
No. But I could see, it depends on how much longer he's got. I could see it happening one day.
Yeah, maybe sometime, but not the inaugural champion. Or if it is the WWE Championship, it's not inaugural, but whatever, you know what I mean.
Yes, no, not that.
AJ Styles, going back over to the Monday Night Raw side, he is currently injured still, as far as I'm aware.
It would be a good choice, but
it'd be a great choice.
If he's out, then it's a no-go.
Bobby Lashley.
No.
He is striking to me more like that he might win that United States title from Austin Theory. But, I mean, Bobby Lashley is a former 2-time champion, and it'd be kind of weird if they ended up giving him this after not even finding a spot for him at WrestleMania, wouldn't it be?
Yes, and I'd like to go a step further. Since you mentioned the United States title, I hope Theory is not in this match either. They still have a lot of work to do for him.
I think so. We're going to skip Cody Rhodes for now because I think we're going to ultimately come back around to him. But Dolph Ziggler is somebody who stands no chance.
You missed another guy.
You missed Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, he's listed on this.
Is he a Raw superstar? I thought I was going to just save him for.
He's listed on Raw. He's listed on Raw. Wikipedia,
yeah, and he's draftable too, so they're going to draft him.
I was going to just save him for like free agent. I thought he was still listed under there.
Oh, we can talk about him later as well.
Let's work that in with the Cody thing. So Dolph Ziggler, no chance. It's just not happening. Sorry. You're here to show the world, but whatever. Edge, I don't think stands any chance to win this.
I think he's a big favorite to win this one.
Really?
Yeah, I was gonna say Edge.
It looks like the title that he wore all the time. This is his title.
Yeah, it seems like if you're gonna push Edge towards the title, it's this one.
I don't think he'd win it, but I could definitely envision him being the guy in the finals against whoever does win it. He's not doing anything right now. That
I could see. Yeah, I could see him being in the finals and losing, but I don't think he's going to win it.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily advocating that he should win it, but I think that to rule him out would be naive.
I agree with Callum.
Finn Balor.
To rule him out would be naive.
I would say flat out no. At the very least, I'm hoping he's not in the picture for that. I don't think he's got the momentum. For that matter, I mean, I've never really thought that Finn Balor was like the absolute top of the line, like a lot of other people do. To me, he's like man, he's one hell of an Intercontinental champion who deserves to have won that title once, and it sucks that it was just a one-day reign. But like, he's not a guy that I'd be like, yep, I'm going to build it around him going forward, You know
what? I take that back because I want to say no because I think he's going to SmackDown. That's where Roman is.
Yeah. We assume Roman, sadly, is going to be on there. Kevin Owens, well, the Saudi Arabia thing, we already talked about that. He is currently still a tag team champion, so unless they drop that and they do something along those lines, it doesn't seem like that's where they're building, at least for me. So I'm going to say no for Kevin.
I'd like him to be in the running because I would like him to be on the brand opposite of Roman Reigns.
Yeah, obviously not a first-time thing, but maybe in future.
Mm-hmm. Plenty of these I would like to see in the future. I'd like to see Johnny Gargano win in the future, et cetera, et cetera. Miz, I'm going to say no.
No.
Please.
Randy Orton
is one of the few people left that if he can wrestle, can absolutely wrestle Roman Reigns. So put him on where Roman is.
I think it's just a case of if he's ever going to come back, it's probably the biggest argument right now, but he's definitely not winning that title first.
It would be kind of crazy if it ends up being like, okay, right, the Monday Night Raw after Backlash, hey, Randy Orton's back, and he's,
I think based on all the reports that came out about the fact of how they still think that,
he might not
how
be.
serious the injury is, then yeah, I think I think we probably should just be grateful if he ever does show back up more than predicted if he's going to win a title.
I'd like him to show it. If he is going to come back, I hope it's
what?
I hope it's soon.
Soon.
Yeah, we miss Randy.
Seth freaking Rollins
will be winning this title.
I mean, he's definitely a favorite. I'm not saying I don't think it'd be a super inspiring pick, but he is probably a favorite for it.
I think he is an extremely likely chance to win this. I don't think it's going to go to John Cena or Logan Paul for any of the free agent type things. I don't know about you guys, but
they'll be drafting Logan, won't they?
They should.
He's draftable.
I could see them just ignoring it and treating him like a free agent, but they should draft him.
Well, no, I think I could see him being one of the main picks on the show because he's Logan Paul. I don't think he's winning this belt, though. Unless they want that WrestleMania rematch with Rollins.
Let's talk Brock and Cody. I would go so far as to say not only just because Brock is Brock and the whole point of this is supposed to be the fighting championship and all, I don't think you can give this to Brock. At least not right now. The only way I can imagine them doing that is if it's like, well, we're going to give it to Brock so he's the first champion and then he's going to lose it at the next pay-per-view, which that seems insane to me. But I also think you kind of need to have a baby face, don't you?
That's what I assumed that coming out of WrestleMania, and I was wrong. So, you never know. But I already said I would start laughing and then burst into tears if Brock Lesnar won this title. We don't need it.
It's one of those weird things, like, it's another aspect of the fact that they're doing this show in Saudi Arabia. Brock's a massive babyface in Saudi Arabia.
I mean, just as far as, like, booking going forward.
How much time between Money in the Bank and the Saudi show?
Let's go to smarkmma.com, the handy-dandy pay-per-view.
About a month or so.
So theoretically, you could.
So Night of Champions is May 27th. Then we've got Battleground. Then we've got July 1st.
About a month. So you could, if you were just going to have him drop it immediately.
You could have like everybody on Raw just get super pissed off that Brock is the guy that won the title and say like, we want this title to be the fighting championship title and stuff like.
It also look, don't count out the idea that WWE, whether they have a plan for it or not, they could always just go, we fucking love putting that belt on Brock, man.
Well, that's the thing is though.
Maybe the Endeavor side with the UFC thing, but we've also, the next pay-per-view after that is Money in the Bank, and they love having somebody cash in Money in the Bank on the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. It's typically the Women's Championship, which is having like 4 times now, which is crazy. but they happened to do that with Dean Ambrose before. They had it with Kane. I was trying to figure out who it was. I was like, I think it was Kane that beat Ray. Yeah. So they very well could put this belt on Brock, have him only show up maybe once prior to Money in the Bank if you need to, and then just be like, and he loses it at Money in the Bank because somebody cashes in, and there you go. That's the real champion. But we wanted to give it to Brock because that's a big thing, and we want this, especially if it's a brand new lineage. Could be like, well, we wanted to have him be the first one or something, you know? Or they could be like, oh, fucking Cody's adversity. You know, he couldn't, he needed to lose against Brock to be able to beat Brock. Like, you know, some bullshit like that.
So I admittedly, if they were to do it for just a month, I don't hate the idea, because I would like to see it go all the way and just go, haha, Paul Heyman's still with Brock Lesnar. Now he's champion of both guys who will never appear on the shows. And then you, like, at least you could tell you have some fun with that. But I'm just, like, personally so burned out on not having a top prize on Raw that I wouldn't even want to flirt with the idea.
There could also be a mentality that they could have of, we've gone so long with Roman holding this belt that we want to have the belt change hands. Like, wouldn't it be great if we had Brock win that at Saudi Arabia, and then we immediately, a month later, have a new champion, and see, this is a belt that can change hands, everybody. That could be their booking philosophy too. So I'm not ruling out Brock. He can't win the belt with Roman. So you could give him this and never, ever, ever count out Charlotte Flair and Brock Lesnar. Never count them out. They could.
I hate to say I agree.
They could not be in the match and they can still win it. That's been happening before, you know? They could be the completely illogical choice that all you're going to do is completely burn down an entire roster, and people go, yeah, but goddamn it, Charlotte, you know, like, it happens. So I think it's really down to those three. I think it's either it's Seth, it's Cody, or it's Brock. We already talked, if it's Cody, it's a consolation prize. Doesn't matter as much and all. But they could be just like, oh, you know, it's fucking good enough. Shut up.
I can't see that being the case. Of the three, I think if I had to rank them in most likely, I'd put Cody at the bottom, Brock in the middle, and Seth at the top.
I think that it's not a choice I would make, but I think they're going to go Cody, and think that is good enough.
I'm leaning towards Seth. And I don't know who they would have in mind for him to go up against for it. But I kind of feel like they want to do Seth, and maybe, I don't know. This seems kind of crazy to me. I kind of think that they want to do Seth in a way because it's like, all right, well, he's a fighting champion. We really like him and all. We want to make sure that he sticks around. We want to make sure that Becky sticks around. We want to capitalize on people singing his song and all this. And we can come back around to the Cody thing if we want to. We could always do a Cody versus Seth thing. It wouldn't shock me at all if this is Cody versus Seth and Seth beats Cody because he already lost to Cody 3 times.
Good. That is a good idea. I think it's absolutely Seth Rollins for a lot of reasons. One of the underlying things that kept coming up in the news cycles during Mania season was Seth is kind of salty that he's not the guy and that he'll never be the guy in the Roman era. This is a way to alleviate that. There was the weird stuff about maybe Cody and Seth almost getting physical backstage. Like, there's a lot here that says Seth Rollins could on camera channels a little bit of the legitimate behind the scenes irritants of being the guy without having a prize to fight for. And then in storyline, there's also the idea that Roman never beat him. He's also neck and neck with Cody. It makes sense for it to be him. And I think the Cody thing would be such a cop out that I just don't want it. I want Cody to be Roman Reigns.
I'll go on record and say, unless they change something up with the draft or they end up switching things where it's like that's a whole new perspective or whatever, particularly if this is a new championship, which I'm still harping on 1,000,000%. I want this to just be the WWE Championship and keep that lineage and all. I'm not all that interested in a Seth Rollins title reign right now to be like, okay, that's the alternative. That's the thing that's going to solve all the problems is Seth is defending a belt. I'd be like, well, who's he up against?
Well, I don't think that's fair.
Because I was interested in a Cody Rhodes title reign going out of that, but that's because he has a whole lot more people, and it's like, okay, no matter what, it's probably going to be an interesting story. Seth, if you're like, yeah, I think he's got a variety of different people that Cody against them would be interesting just because we haven't seen it before. But with Seth, it's like, all right, if you shake the draft up and you had to be in like, Seth is the champion and one of his top challengers is Bobby Lashley, I'm going to be like, I don't fucking care. Oh, man. Or if it's like, Seth is the champion and his current challenger is going to be Solo Sikoa, I'd be like, fuck, I don't care about that either. Like, it's Seth right now. He's great in a lot of ways, but he's not the driving force of a feud where it's infallible for me. Cody's not infallible either, for that matter. But I
was gonna say, I'll go on record as saying nobody they could put this belt on is going to be a fix-all.
Yeah,
they're just starting to clean the wound. Like they're not even. This isn't even a Band-Aid situation. They're just starting to actually look at it.
There's a slight part of me that's like, I wonder if anybody would have even pitched this. I don't think it's happening. For anybody that's wondering if this is a prediction, I think this is like a 0.01%, but they haven't said anything about who Roman's going to fight next. And it's clearly not happening at Backlash. They are completely skirting that issue. It's not happening there. We've got our main events of Bad Bunny is appearing, and we've got the Brock and Cody thing. There's a chance he doesn't defend that belt in Saudi Arabia, and that Roman does just wait 2 months plus after WrestleMania to finally defend his belt again. If not, he might not even do it until we're heading up into August with SummerSlam. There's a chance that I would have at least pitched. If you put me on there, I'd be like, look, all right, you screwed me over with a million other ways and we could have done this better. But if you want to put this belt on Cody, what if, just putting it out there, get your opinions about this. What if Cody versus Brock is the match that leads into this or something? And Cody is like, you know what? It still doesn't mean anything if I don't beat Roman or whatever. So I want to fight Roman Reigns at Saudi Arabia. And it's a non-title match in the sense that, the Universal title's not on the line or whatever, but I have to beat Roman to be this champion. And he beats Roman. That way he doesn't lose the 1,000 days. And it's like, you spoiled my 1,000-day celebration because you beat me and whatever. But hey, that's the definitive thing to like, you beat him on a different scenario and you won this other prize.
He can lose at Saudi Arabia and still hit the 1,000 days. But still, if you pitch that to me, I'm going to do the meme where I'm throwing it out the window. Like, do not pitch Cody beating Roman in a non-title match.
Like I said, this is not at all what I would have pitched. I would have been like, God damn it, you already screwed everything up. Like you're giving me nothing to work with here, but I'm trying to salvage something. It's like, you could try to justify it. It's like, well, he beat him, so technically but it's like, nothing's going to beat what they had at WrestleMania. So if you give this to Cody and he beats Seth or he beats Brock or whatever, everybody goes, so he won the silver medal. And if you have Brock win, people go, well, fuck. I guess we don't have a champion until we have to wait until Money in the Bank. And if Seth wins, and right now my prediction is Seth Rollins wins this, then I think that they go, Seth is one of those guys. Don't you fucking like him? He's gonna have a lot of matches. And then I go, yeah, I guess, but fast forward.
So I guess as we kind of wrap up here, I'm kind of filled with the same feelings I had during the draft video we did a couple weeks ago, where it's like, the way we've laid it all out, it's still a pretty depressing landscape either way, because we've all pretty much admitted the focal point will still be Roman. And even if they give it to a guy like Seth and there's a champion on weekly TV, is anyone really going to care? As a fan of the product and as someone who watches the product for both work and because it's the thing I've always done on Monday nights, I'd much rather just have a champion there. And then we need to start rehabbing the roster. But I think that Seth is the guy who can be a part of that journey. I would say Cody if they didn't make it a point to go, but I need to win that one. Otherwise, I'd say absolutely Cody's this guy. But because he was so definitive on that one, I think Rollins is at least the guy you started with. And I hope it's the last time Rollins ever has to cut promos about saving the title from a part-time champion. Because I'm so done. All of that.
So you're going Seth. I'm going Seth.
What
about you, Cal?
Cody.
You're going Cody, or you?
I'm still going Cody. I think that they would perceive that as a good enough conclusion for him.
Well, the exciting thing is we'll know.
We'll know. Like it's like we'll know, quote unquote, but we'll have a clearer idea after either Friday or Monday if Cody's going to be on the same roster as Roman or not.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I assume if we're just starting with the draft, I assume we'd know by 8:05. Where Roman is and where Cody is, if you're doing it right.
Yeah, because they're the two people you pick. Unless they do the thing they did last year where only certain people were eligible.
Oh, that was so annoying, but they will.
They already said that they are.
Yeah. So.
The way that they had a little quick insert. Well, I mean, look, it's WWE. They can flat out say things and then they can do the opposite and just be like, again, fuck you for paying attention, because that's what they do. But they had that little backstage thing where Rick Boogs was talking to Elias and Chad Gable. And Boogs was like, oh man, like I'm so nervous about the draft and all. And Gable was explaining. He's like, well, some people are eligible to be drafted the first night. Some people are eligible the next night.
Oh, well, I didn't pay attention to that segment because it was Rick Boogs and Elias that opened the segment.
So if they're at least going by that logic of Chad Gable saying that this is how it's supposed to work and you're supposed to pay attention and all that stuff.
Well, damn it all to hell, Roman and Cody better go on the same night.
I think we're going to have to wait until after Raw to really know. But at the very least, we should get some more clarification about what the championship is going to be when it comes to how they're going to draft Roman. And if they do something like, you start off and it's like Adam Pearce goes, hey, everybody, we're going to draft that. Smackdown has drafted Roman Reigns. And then we see some backstage segment or he comes out or whatever, and he hands over the WWE Championship belt. And he's like, all right, I'm the Universal Champion going forward. And then they go, we're going to take this title and this is going to be the one that, it's going to be defended. If they say something like that, we're going to have a better idea about what's going forward. But man, we're in a weird fucking time spot right now where it's just like this holding pattern is kind of, wonder if they have a plan or if they don't.
I think they at least they have enough of a plan that they said enough. We're getting a goddamn belt on the other show because enough. Because it has to be frustrating to book 3 hours of TV where there's no real purpose. Remember the end of WrestleMania last year where Roman came out for 5 seconds, literally just to say, and watch SmackDown?
Yeah.
It's been that for a whole year.
Yeah, so it's tough. And of course, we will break down that more after the fact of that. I mean, I don't know how we're necessarily going to address this because they are doing the whole split between those two. So by the time we get around to the hot tags for this week, we still aren't going to know much more information. But that'll be when we talk about the fallout from spring break-in from tonight, and we get into the Dynamite stuff, and maybe we know some more hot tag information before then. We'll probably do something on the hot tags of like, all right, last minute predictions for the draft or something. I don't know. I might do something elsewhere about that. I haven't figured that out yet, but by this point next week, we should have a better idea about what the hell's happening with this championship. If not, then we got some major, major problems.
If not, then they messed up the draft. I don't know how they can possibly do that.
But then at least at this point, next Tuesday, they should have had another episode of the Monday Night Raw where they're explaining something about like, all right, Backlash is going to be in this direction. And this is, maybe not. Maybe they end up waiting until 2 weeks from now to really clarify some of this. I think that kind of covers everything. Is there any other topics based off of this you guys think of?
No, I think.
How much does that belt weigh?
Yeah. It looks like it's heavy.
So drop your thoughts in the comments below, everybody. Tell us what you think. What do you think about the look? What do you think about who's going to be the next champion or the first champion? Or what do you think about the lineage? How can they possibly keep you interested in Roman Reigns as champion if they have effectively said, fuck you, he's not dropping that belt anytime soon? Talk more about the draft stuff when it comes around to it, but stay tuned to everything that's happening there. The draft stuff is, we talked about this before. How should it go down? Now that we have another championship, we might have done things a little bit differently. I don't know. We also, some point next week, we're going to get into the fantasy league and start drafting our teams prior to Backlash, because that is when the new season starts for that. So that'll probably be live, and we'll probably draft based off of, people in the live chat are like, hey, you guys got to make sure that you Drew McIntyre or something like that. It might be like, I'm going to pick that person or something. I think that might be more fun to do that as a live thing. But that is all happening coming up in the future. The hot tags is happening next on this channel. If you go over to Fanboys Anonymous, you will see all the things happening over there. I mentioned before the Batman A Nighttime story. I am still editing chapter 3. It's taking forever, but you'll be happy to know that I took 3.5 hours worth of material and boiled it down to 58 minutes. So, that's happening pretty soon. Hopefully I will finish that throughout this week and maybe publish that on like the weekend. Absolute Power Rangers Mighty Morphin Epic, little teaser about that is up there on Fanboys, so tune in, check that out if you're interested in Power Rangers. Share all that good stuff, make sure the Blueprint Project gets up and running and people start paying attention to that and all. The more support that you show for that, the better. And it might sound counterproductive, but the more support that you show for the Blueprint Project and for Fanboys Anonymous, the better it is for Smark Out Moment, because the more I can focus on just these two brands and everything that I like the best. Because if you water one thing under a mango tree, all the branches are nice and healthy and you get some leaves there. So go to anthonymango.com or amangotree.com. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter and all the good stuff at Tony Mango and all the other links that you can find there. And follow Rob and Callum over on their platforms.
Follow me everywhere at Dude Felice. Check out my work on Fightful, WrestleZone, and maybe something else coming soon that sort of fell in my lap. That if something happens, I'll elaborate more. DudeFelice.com, forever coming soon. And yeah, that's it for now. Callum?
You can follow me on Twitter at WeekMeister14. Check out the Power Rankings on smarkoutmoment.com, my weekly contribution. And then also I'll be once again heading up the Fantasy League as it returns next week. So it'll be up on the website by that point. You can check out the rules and how we're going to be structuring things this year to freshen up from last year's approach.
All that good stuff coming your way, so stay tuned. Make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you are checking out smarkoutmoment.com. I will, of course, also, on top of the normal coverage that we do, I'll be doing some kind of an extra post about the full breakdown of the draft like I normally do, where it's just an easy way for you to be like, let me click on this page and see where everybody went. I will naturally adjust the roster pages to reflect all the call-ups and the new signings or tweaks or whatever it might end up being.
Or reflect Schism just saying, hey, we'll see you in October when we're free agents.
Yeah. Good on them, though, for saying that. Just being like, yep, we want to get out of this. They aren't letting us, but it'll happen pretty soon. And yeah, it's not looking good for the Dyad right now. But at least as far as going over the new World Heavyweight Championship is concerned, that is doing us in for this episode. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we will see you next time. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.